Beneath the stars where shadows grow, the Nephilim's echoes whisper low. Bigfoot roams through the forest deep, and Dogman prowls where the brave won't sleep. Across lost history we wonder why, seeking the truth that time tried to hide. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit, through the darkness don't ever quit. In the Codex, the mysteries come, and always find your way back home. UFOs streak through the velvet skies, aliens watch with unblinking eyes. The paranormal hums where silence breaks, in the void of secrets a lantern wakes. Through hidden realms and stories untold, the Codex flame is the light to hold. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit, through the darkness don't ever quit. In the Codex, the mysteries come, and always find your way back home. UFOs streak through the velvet skies, aliens watch with unblinking eyes. The paranormal hums where silence breaks, in the void of secrets a lantern wakes. Through hidden realms and stories untold, the Codex flame is a light to hold. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit, through the darkness don't ever quit. In the Codex, the mysteries come, and always find your way back home. Legends rise from the Earth's deep core, a lost legacy we can't ignore. With every step, the veil grows thin, revealing worlds where the strange begins. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit, through the darkness don't ever quit. In the Codex, the mysteries come, and always find your way back home. Giants, cryptids that call, aliens, histories will uncover it all. With Rob and Codega, we'll never be alone. Together we'll always find our way home. Oh, oh, oh.
We're only doing that once. We're not going to be doing that twice. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Codega's Codex of Curiosities. And not just another episode, it's the 1 year. So 1 year ago today, I hit record for the first time with one of my best friends, Matt from Planet 412. And not knowing exactly where this journey would lead, but here we are 1 year later, and we're still diving deep into the strange, the unexplained, and around the hidden corners of reality. Now, whether you've been here since day one or you found your way here recently, we are all part of something bigger now, a community of seekers and questioners, and just we are the people who refuse to accept the ordinary. We are the weird. We are not the normal. So tonight, I'm going to celebrate, a year full of mysteries, revelations, and incredible guest stories, and my listeners and viewers. I'm celebrating you too, because you guys make this show. And, you guys have all shaped the show. But of course, we're not just going to be looking back. We're looking forward because, trust me, the best is yet to come. So everybody, grab your lantern, step into the unknown, and let's open the next chapter of Codega's Codex of Curiosities. So welcome to the 1 year anniversary special. And with that, I'm going to bring on some of my best friends, some of my favorite guests I've ever had on the show. First of all, I'm going to bring Brad from the Awakened podcast. Brad, how you doing?
What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Doing great, doing great. And I'm waiting for one more. I can see his camera's not on, so I'm just going to give him a minute or two. But thanks for coming, Brad. I was very happy to have you on, and of course I have someone else, someone fantastic coming on as well. So, Brad, for those who don't know you, I'm sure they all do, but why don't you give a little shout out to your channel and everything else? And Tyler, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tyler.
What's up, guys? My name is Brad. I'm the host of the Awakened podcast. Hopefully you guys have already followed me on Spotify and Apple, but if you haven't, please do so. And if you haven't given me a review, or if you haven't given review, please do so. Those reviews really help us out a lot. But Rye, I'm really happy to be here, buddy, and I'm happy to celebrate this 1 year anniversary with you, man.
Not a problem. Yeah. I'm excited too, man. This 1 year seems to have flown by, like in reality, like or has it seemed to flown by? Like it seems like a long time ago we first started talking. That was, when was that? Was that in September?
You and I?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like August. Yeah.
That was in August, September. Wow. And here we are. It is crazy now. I'm like, what do I do? What do I talk about? I'm just still waiting for that one more guest. I know he's just working on some stuff, so we'll just keep going without him here for now. But yeah, so tonight I thought we'd maybe talk about some of our favorite stories that we've had on each of our podcasts. So, Brad, you tell me some of the favorite stories that you've had on. I'm going to tell some of mine. And I've also, so there was one of my favorite episodes, and I talk about this all the time. And I don't mean favorite as in like, I don't know how to say this. So like some of them are really disturbing, and it's just like, oh my God. And I need to help try to find some answers. And one of them was Nightmare in Michigan. And I just had an interview this past week where I interviewed a guest who I think gave me a little bit of insight without knowing it, because I'm sitting here, I feel that this is all just a big puzzle, and we're trying to piece things together, because in reality, that's what it is. None of us really know. None of us are experts. We're trying to, we're in the blind trying to get, and I got a piece, and you have a piece, and we put it together and we make something big. Okay. And before we go too far on that, I'm going to bring on my other guest here. So coming to the stage is my good friend, Matt from, and it is not, let's see here. Okay. So that is not what I wanted. I want all shared different sizes. So let's try this. There we go. Matt Emsch from Planet 412. Matt, welcome to my 1 year anniversary show. Glad to have you on,
brother. How are you?
I'm doing great. So for those who don't know Matt, which I'm sure everybody does as well, Matt, please introduce yourself, and also Matt, this is my good friend Brad from the Awakened podcast.
Nice to meet you, brother. And again, thank you, man. It's a pleasure. And Rye, again, I just wanted to say congratulations on making it to a year. That's a huge milestone on everything, and you've been doing an absolutely fantastic job, man. And you're a dear friend, and I am just stoked for you, and huge things on the horizon for Codega. So again,
I think for all of us, I believe that we are the next up and coming podcast. I really do, and I don't mean that because you guys are my friends. I really believe that, like Brad from the Awakened podcast and Matt from Planet 412, Blake from Mountain Man Explore the Truth. I believe that we really are the ones that are coming up, Caesar as well. And if I'm forgetting some, I am, but it happens.
I have good feelings about the future as well for us. So, bring it on, man. I'm excited about 2025. As you were saying, my name's Matt Emsch. I have a channel, Planet 412. It's not that old. It's just a little bit over a year. And I, obviously am around the same kind of genre that Rye does. I do high strangeness from cryptid, supernatural, paranormal, everything in between and around the edge, through the veil. You name it, I do it on this channel.
Awesome, Matt. So I was just saying, but before you came on, that I would love for us to each share some of our most memorable stories from our own channels, and go from there. And I was explaining that one of my favorite experiencers that I talked to was Andy, and it was Nightmare in Michigan, where he had. Well, why don't I just tell? I'll talk about it a little bit. So Andy had an experience where he was house sitting and he was in the shower, taking a shower, and a storm was brewing outside and it slammed the door of the trailer open. He was house sitting at a trailer and he was also watching a dog at the same time. And what happened is, like, he came out of the shower, checked, the dog is gone, the door is open, and he's like, oh my God. So he's not just in town, he's out of town in a rural area, and trying to find a dog then was crazy, especially during a storm. So he got changed. He started heading outside and he could hear a very similar sound to the sound of the collar. Like there was like a bell on the collar of the dog, and it was ringing, and it was kind of ringing across a pasture into this forested area. So he's like, I need to go find that dog. I can hear the sound. It's coming from there. And it started to rain. And so he starts running, booking it across this field. And we're talking field, okay? Open air. Nothing in this field. He's been in this field during the day, no problem. He's going through there at night. All of a sudden, he gets smoked in the face by something unseen, okay? Something that he could not see or hear or anything. It knocks him almost unconscious. Like he goes unconscious pretty much. He wakes up in the mud. His face is bloody. Like he can feel the blood coming down his nose. And he cannot hear the dog's bell anymore. And he doesn't know how long he's been out there for. So he heads back in. He goes back into the trailer, which the door was closed, right? He opens up the door. Inside is the dog. The dog is bone dry. Before he left searching for the dog, he checked the trailer thoroughly for the dog. It wasn't there. But now he goes back. The dog is inside and it's bone dry. It hadn't been outside. So that is something he started to question. He's like, what is going on? But of course, he's like, I'm all bloody. I need to fix this up. So he takes care of himself. Fast forward to his job. What he did was called a night auditor, and he worked at a hotel. A night auditor is someone who kind of takes care of pretty much everything at the hotel at night. You know, they handle the desk, they do any cleanup, they kind of do all the odds and ends. They're the night shift. So he's working this night shift, and what happens is he's sitting there, and the sliding doors of the hotel open, which, you know, and it was storming outside as well. It was raining and storming again. So the doors open. That's, you know, it can happen. It might be kind of a little spooky, but that can happen. Sometimes those motion sensors get get activated by something. So he's sitting there, and that's when he feels like a rush of air, like someone walking past you fast. Okay. Which is starting to creep him out. And it's headed in the direction of the elevators. Sure enough, an elevator gets called to the lobby. Doors open, doors close. It goes to the 3rd floor. Okay. There's that magic number 3 there, Brad. I know we need a couple of those 3s in there. So it goes to the 3rd floor, doors open, and he's watching the CCTV cameras. Nothing is coming out. He can't see anything. So he continues on with his night. And then, I don't quote me on the times that I'm not going to say the times I don't know, but at one point he looks at the cameras and he sees a shadow figure, like a hooded shadow figure on the 3rd floor near the ice machine, the vending machines and such. You know, they always have that area, and it's just stuck standing there. It's not moving. And like, it's standing there long enough that he's like, I need to go check on this. So he gets into the elevator, goes up to the 3rd floor, goes and checks. Nothing. There's nothing there. But, well, there's no person there. There is something. The floor is covered in this black liquid. Okay. This black liquid stinks of death, He said it was the worst smell he's ever smelled in his life.
Uh-oh, I've heard of black liquid before.
Yeah, yes. So he had to go clean it up, of course, because that's part of his duty. So he cleans it all up, he mops it all up, continues on with his night thinking like that was weird. A couple hours later, he checks, he sees in the camera again, he sees the same figure standing on the third floor in the exact same spot. He's like, what in the hell is going on? So he's like, I'm going to go right now. I'm not going to wait any longer. So he goes up the stairs, not up the stairs. So he takes the elevator up, goes up, the exact same scenario. No one there except this pool of liquid again that he had already mopped up. It is there again. So he cleans it up again. He's finishing his night. He does his night audit. In his night audit, he has to like fill out these forms, his paperwork. He has to do paperwork. Finishing that. And he says it was close to 5 a.m. at this time when the elevator doors open again. And nothing, no one comes out. He feels a rush of air beside him as if something is walking past him really fast. The sliding doors of the hotel open and close. Whatever this entity was, or whatever this was, it left. So he is like freaked out, but I'm going home. He goes home. He's not home for more than a couple hours, not even. He gets a phone call from his manager saying, you need to come in here. And he's like, well, why? Like, I just finished. I'm going to bed. What's going on? And she's like, you didn't do the night audit. And he's like, no. I did the night audit. 100%. I did this night audit. She's like, no, you need to come in now. So he's like, okay. So he goes in and he's in big trouble because he didn't do his work by her accord. So he goes in there and he's talking with her and she's like, you didn't do. He's like, I swear I did this night audit. She's like, no, it's not done. Look here it is. It is not complete. And he's like, no way. I did this. And so they get into a little bit of a disagreement and she asks him like, well, did anything strange happen? And he's like, yes, as a matter of fact, something did happen that was strange. So he goes through and tells her what happened. So they go and review the CCTV cameras. And what she saw, what these cameras actually recorded was something completely different than what he saw and what happened. So at around the time when this shadow figure was standing there, when he said that this shadow figure was standing here, it was him. He walked up to that location and froze and stuck in place and did not move. Nothing. He stayed there for hours, motionless. Okay. Did not move. And then all of a sudden, like clockwork, just boom, just started moving again, finished off his shift, and that was it. He was frozen in time. Okay.
And they have proof of this on the security footage.
Yes, he saw it himself. He doesn't have that security footage, but he saw it for himself exactly what had happened. And he was like,
hours did you say?
Pardon me, sorry?
How many hours was he frozen?
Approximately about 2 to 3 hours.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's one thing to stand still for like 20 minutes, a half an hour, but 2 to 3 hours, you're frozen in place.
No people walked by him or anything like that?
It was like 2, 3 in the morning to like the early hour. So I don't know the exact time, but it was at that point of time that nothing is happening.
Nobody was out there.
Yes, wow. And he said like usually when he was working the night shift, no one would come in at those hours. You know, like
does anybody else work with him at those hours?
No.
Oh,
no, just him. Just him.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So the story doesn't end there. Okay, so there's 3 parts of the story. That was part 2. So part 3, this is where it kind of culminates. Or my gosh, it comes to an end. It comes to a climax. Oh my god, come on, Ryan. So what had happened at this point now was he was being dubbed the weird person because this story didn't stay under wraps. You know, people talked. He is a weird guy, and he's like, okay, I'm not having any of this. He was in this town. This is in Michigan. So he was in this town for school. And he was staying through the summer where everybody else usually leaves. He was staying and working through the summer. He couldn't have it. He's like, no, I'm done. I'm out of here. So he he just decided he quit. He packed up everything into his car, phoned his mom, said, I'm coming home. I'm done. And I believe home for him was in Florida. So he starts driving away. He's leaving Michigan, but he's still in Michigan here. Now, what happened here was he was driving up and he sees a rest stop, not like a gas station rest stop, but one of those on the side of the road where they have little cabins where they have like bathrooms and information booklets and things like that, like for all the tourist attractions. Usually sometimes they're unmanned, sometimes they're manned, but he's like, I got to use the bathroom. So he stops and he goes into, he starts walking towards this building, and a hooded figure comes. And that's another key, is a hooded figure exits this building as he's going in and almost like knocks him over. And he's like, what the hell? He still hasn't put this in yet. Like, I mean, he still hasn't like connected that this hooded figure might be somehow connected. So he's walking in, and here's another connection. Inside the woman's bathroom is flooded. So there's water all over again. There's kind of like, could be sewage water, not really 100% sure. He never went into that, but there was water coming out from the woman's bathroom. There's like a little sign and everything. So again, we're having this water tie-in again. So he goes into the bathroom and he goes to the urinal, and he's standing, and the urinal he's using is right next to a stall. Okay. And he can see out of the corner of his eye, this hooded figure walks into the bathroom, goes into the stall right next to him. Okay. And so as a guy, we kind of, and for those women who don't know, guys have a rule, is you always kind of give that buffer. You never go to a stall, even if it's a stall next to the urinal, you always kind of make sure you always want that spacing. But this hooded figure went into the stall and started making these noises. And I don't mean those noises, okay? But started making these weird sounding noises. And he was getting freaked out. He's like, I'm out of here. Like, this is crazy. So he finishes, he starts to wash his hands. And this person in the stall, with the doors closed, calls his name. Okay. So this person, like, how does this person know his name? This person doesn't.
Freaky.
Yes, calls his name. But this is where it gets freaky. He said it was almost like a spell. It was this compulsion. And he's like, something came over him. And he's like, I started turning around, and like, I needed to go to this voice. I needed to go to this voice. And he snapped out of it, washed his face. And he's like, what the hell is going on? And all of a sudden, again, it almost demands. It's almost like a demanding. It calls his name again and demand, like this forceful command. And he turns around, opens the stall door, and that is it. Okay. His memory stops there. Now he regains consciousness in his car. Hours and hours later, his car is running. He's covered in vomit. He has vomited it over himself. So it's like a bile vomit. He's also wet his pants as well. And he's almost out of gas. So he's been there for hours and hours. He doesn't know how long there is. So again,
he left his car started.
Somehow his car was running. So he never got out of his car. Like, he turned off his car, right? But he was back in his car, and the car was running at this point. And his car was running at this point. And it was running for so long that it was almost out of gas.
Right.
So we have some, yes. So we have multiple time loss with this individual. And he woke up and he had no idea what was going on. He started losing it. And he called his mom, and he's like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I'm scared. And he drove and drove, and he made it to a gas station. Like, there was a gas station just close enough that he was able to fill up and drive home. He said he kind of cleaned himself up, and he went straight home. His mom made him appointments for like psychologists and doctors. And the consensus they had is that he has an overactive sleepwalking problem. That was the doctor's.
Okay.
That was the doctor's explanation.
That's absolutely zero of an explanation.
Exactly. And Matt, you know from your own personal experience, like, what PTSD is and what it does to you. Okay. This gentleman, I think you have dealt with it a lot better than he has. He is still dealing with it. Okay. So this is something where he talking about it like he closes his eyes a lot when he's telling the story. He's really affected, really affected. Telling the story after it, he told me after this, after he told me the story on my show, that like he suffers from nightmares and night terrors after this. He says it's terrifying. So fast forward to Tuesday, just this past week, Tuesday. I was talking with Daniel. This is an interview I had planned for a while and I was quite excited about it. He operates, and I don't want to get this wrong, he operates DSETI, okay? And DSETI is the dream study of extraterrestrial intelligence, okay? He goes into consciousness abduction, okay? So your body remains, your consciousness is abducted. And this sounds crazy. This sounds absolutely crazy. But if you think about it, I think this is exactly what happened to Andy. I believe that he was abducted, his consciousness was abducted, and his body remained. And this is like, when he was telling this, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what happened. And he also talks about how this is a tie-in with sleep paralysis as well, where sleep paralysis, our physical body is remaining there, but they are abducting our consciousness. And like he says that he was listening to a lot of Vicky Joy Anderson's interviews with me as well. And he's like, yeah, they go hand in hand. Like this is all connected. And it was really, really very interesting. So that was my story of probably the most memorable story that I've had on my show. I'm not saying that, Matt, technically I need to have you back to tell your story, your big story on my show. We told your story on my previous show, so I cannot include yours on it. But So,
yeah, for sure, absolutely we will. I just wanted to comment on that guy real quick. I feel really bad. Number one, first and foremost, the thing that's been sticking with me since you began was, just of course, this guy shares his experience with coworkers, and he's razzed so much that he wants to move back to Florida. And here we are, a group of us and people in the chat. And I do believe, because of YouTube and other online forums and things like that we have come an extremely long way for people to have support and being able to talk about what's happened to them in crazy, supernatural or high strangeness events. But what a damn shame that guy was made fun of and had that kind of experience, that he wanted to move back to Florida. It's just messed up, man. I don't like that kind of stuff. Really upsetting.
Me neither. Yeah. So any thoughts on that one, on that experience? Brad or Matt, do you have any thoughts on that one? Any insights that you guys want to give on it?
Comment before I do.
Well, I think, for me, I take it to, like, I'm always trying to figure out why things are happening versus, like the experience itself. You guys tell great stories about people's crazy, weird experiences, but I'm always trying to figure out, like, why are they happening? And are they, what's the deeper connection there? And a lot of times I always go to, is there ley lines involved or earth energies that are, interrupting people's frequencies and brainwave processes, I guess you could say. And anytime there's missing time, a lot of times people don't talk about the fact that when people do hypnosis, you can bypass the side of their brain that is logical and pass straight through to the creative and the feeling and the intuition side and all this other stuff. That's actually what happens during hypnosis. And my mom just went through hypnosis, by the way, on a cruise. She got up on stage and everything, one of those funny ones that they make you like act like a chicken and all that stuff. But she said that she didn't think that she was out of it until she watched the tapes. And then she realized that there was all kinds of stuff going on that she didn't even know about. So it causes a temporary amnesia. And so I feel like when people interact with something that's paranormal, there's this thing that that side of their brain shuts down, and it allows almost like a hypnosis state where you don't remember things, and where it can, you can bring those memories back with some sort of hypnotic regression or something like that. But for temporarily, you have space missing in your brain of what happened during that time. By the way, people can make suggestions to you and control you like a puppet, dance like a chicken, and things like that, right? And it's like,
yeah,
but people don't remember that part of it. And so I think that the paranormal things that come into our reality have that ability to shut that down quickly. And because even if we saw it, if we saw something that didn't match our reality, that didn't match our current understanding of reality, we might automatically shut it down. We might automatically go, what the world is that? And then, like, boom, you're into a hypnotic state. You know what I mean?
Like some sort of survival technique is kind of what you're saying as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's my take on it. I mean, that's a super interesting story. I'd like to ask that guy a million questions, obviously.
I know. I definitely want him back on, to have a further deeper discussion with this again, because like I said, that was one of my first interviews after Matt, and it is still stuck with me, and he was kind of, and I don't mean this rude in any way, he was kind of flaking on me, where he was, just not really showing up and not responding, and I almost gave up on him. But now I know why. Like there's some people who just do that because they're irresponsible, or they just, they're jerks. But he's doing it because he was it so messed with him. It really affected him to the point that, it took a lot of courage. He had done one other interview prior to that. And do you guys know who Rainn Wilson is? He was from The Office, Dwight Schrute from The Office.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
He do Soul Boom.
He had I don't know which podcast it is. It's kind of like an old, like, VHS. Is that what it's called? Soul Boom?
Well, he has a show called Soul Boom now. I don't know what it was called before, but I saw an older clip of, sorry if I was a little loud there, but I saw an older clip of Rainn Wilson asking somebody a question. It looked like it was like early 2000s or something. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but.
Yeah, I don't know when this one was specifically, but this was, he had done that interview with Rainn Wilson prior to that, but he felt that they were looking more for the wow factor, and they edited it and they cut it and edited it to make it sound like, instead of him trying to find answers, it was like, we just want your story and goodbye, next kind of thing, which happens with some shows. They just they just want to kick you out next, and where I believe a lot of us, like, I know us three, and I bring up Blake as well from Mountain Man Exploring the Truth. We make a connection with our guests as close as we can. And, I think we're all looking for answers, and we're looking for answers for them as well. So it's interesting. Now, before we go too far, I want everyone to know that tonight I'm going to be gifting out some channel memberships. So it's going to be random, and hopefully you guys get one. And so I'm going to do that first. We'll do the first one right now, the first batch right now. Let's see what happens here. So gift 5 right now. Here we go. All right. Yes. Because I can. Why not? There we go. There's our first 4 or 5 there. Perfect. Now, Matt or Brad, would you care to go next and tell me about one of your most memorable experiences?
If you don't mind, Matt, I'll go first.
Of course.
Every episode I do is kind of like a codex of curiosities. To be honest with you, it's a continuation of the next kind of episode. I'll talk about something and I'll go, oh, that's interesting, and maybe I'll go buy a book on what we talked about, and then I'll try to expand on it a little more. So I think my whole podcast is a continuation of the next conversation and the next conversation. So I think all of them are equally interesting, and they lead to another conversation about something bigger and more important, So
awesome. So every episode is the most memorable episode, is what you're saying.
It really is, because this is fun to me. This is a journey to me. This is like, everything's interesting to me. I don't pretend like I know everything. I'm getting to a point where it's like, when I talk to somebody else, it might take me down to another path. And you mentioned the story with the guy, and it started making me think about like superposition, right? Quantum mechanics and superposition, where everything exists all at once. It's like when you flip a coin, it's always floating, flipping in the air. It exists in multiple states at once until someone observes it, until it lands on head or until it lands on tails or whatever. And so I think that every flip of the coin, every turn, every episode takes me down a new path of like, oh, let me go check this out. And then, I started off doing paranormal stories a little bit, and then I'm kind of down this road of physics right now, which is really weird. So, everything kind of takes a strange path.
It really is. I definitely, our shows seem to kind of like take us down these paths. They develop a life of their own, like Matt. I've seen Matt's shows are all like very cryptid orientated. Brad, I've seen yours go like metaphysical and physics, when you're talking about like atoms and portals and plasma portals. And then mine were going with the Nephilim, but I tried to rein it back a little bit because I was going into like some lost history, some conspiracy. I tried to rein it back into more centered again, like trying to get some cryptid stories, some UFO stories as well. And but yeah. So Matt, what about you? What was your most memorable interview?
Oh boy. There's been a few. Let me think. I have one coming up. There's actually two coming up that are really, I would love to tell right now, but since the videos haven't been released, I don't want to ruin it because, man, either one of them would be beautiful. But you know what I'll say? I'll use one of the most recent ones. It's very comparable to mine. It's one of the very rare dogman attacks that I believe. There's a lot of dogman attacks out there that people talk about, and for me, I hear, and I'm sure you guys too hear, a lot of Sasquatch or whatever. And let's be honest, some of them are just cringeworthy. You just hear them and you're like, oh my God, this is just so not believable. And we, everybody in the chat, you've heard them. Everybody's heard them. That they're just, oh my God, I can't listen to this. But then there's some that are just, wow, you know what? This one gets me. I did a interview with, her name's Joe Stone, and you can hear that on Planet 412. She's only done it 3 interviews so far. Her second one was with me on Planet 412. Her third one was with my really good friend, Carol Ann, on the In Between. And this dogman attack, Joe was a nurse. And this was when she was very much younger. She grew up in Kansas. She was actually in nursing school. And what occurred was, and I'll put the link up in the chat after we discuss this. She was in nursing school, and one night she was studying, and basically what occurred, now of course I'm going to give the short version, but she had noticed during a lightning storm, she loved, like a lot of us do, and in Kansas, a lot of flat land, she noticed the storm coming, so she said she was laying back on her bed and she was watching the lightning come in, and she noticed in her window all of a sudden she couldn't see the lightning anymore. So she thought, and she saw it moving around, this black something. She thought it was her brother messing with her. So when she got up to go to the window, she then heard like growling, and she, for some reason, before she grabbed the drape, something told her, I'm not going to grab the drape. And then she started to think to herself, you know what? That is really high off the ground. That can't be my brother. It's, like 8 feet off the ground. Maybe he's holding something over his head. And the longer and longer this went on, she started noticing, this thing whatever it was, she heard snorting and stuff like that, like something was on the window trying to smell through the glass, and she got horrified. And fast forward, and again, there's the specifics. You can watch the video. Fast forward a little bit. This occurred where this thing was coming back here and there, and then she told her boyfriend about it one night, and at first he laughed at her and didn't believe her, but brought her to her house to study and get away, and this thing followed them and ended up um, basically he had a huge it was either a Rottweiler or a pit bull, killed his dog, just ripped it apart, um, tried to come physically, ripped through the house, tried to come physically through the house. In fact, it had ripped through the outside of the house, and by the time uh, when the dog was being killed, the neighbor had um, called the police because they thought from the noises this dog was making as it was being mercilessly killed that it was her boyfriend killing her. And he had called the police, the neighbor. When the police came, it had scared this thing off. And when they had gone outside, when the police came, of course they came, they were going to bust down the door. What's going on? We gotta call that you're being beaten by him or something. And one of the officers came around and said, "You guys need to come in the back and see this." And they went. There's blood everywhere. The dog's head's pulled off and blood everywhere. And then when they looked at the house, the siding was completely ripped apart, and all that was left from where they had been hiding in the bathroom, where there was no window, um, it was just the sheetrock was the only thing left. This thing had to get through to where they were, so it was just like a quarter of an inch of this drywall. It almost got through to them. So she to this day has severe PTSD. You got to listen to her interview. Of course, with me, with what I've been through, I'm very skeptical, and I really look for specifics and things like that. I believe her at 100%. She loses it numerous times and cries. And this is an older woman. She's in her older age. She's a very trustworthy soul. When you have individuals that are, getting up there in age, and like a nurse, there's a professional. What does she have to gain by lying about something like this? Especially older people at that age. There's really nothing that she would gain from lying, because if she's lying, um, she needs to go to Hollywood and start acting, because she's going to get an Academy Award, and she's not lying. It's she's telling the truth. And she worked with Sibylla Irwin from Sketching Encounters, who I worked with for over a year, and she helped uh, do the graphic artist. She's a graphic artist, worked on her computer to help create on a computer what I saw, and she also did that with her. Um, that one right there is it got me. I really started sweating. I had reactions. I was nervous. I had real anxiety during the interview. And in fact, the thumbnail for the interview on Planet 412 is, I didn't do like a dog man or anything. It's my wife recommended, during one of the scenes, I'm like this. She said, use that, Matt. She's like, it's real. It's not like you're faking. So I'll put that up here when we're done. But yeah, Joe Stone. She and that right there. Thanks, Rye. That is the dog man that I had the that attacked me and my three friends, Sibylla Irwin, again over at Sketching Encounters on YouTube. She helped. We worked for a year and a half to get it right to what I saw with my friends. And she's never worked longer with anybody but me to get, whatever people have seen. And that is 100% exactly what I saw when I was 14 years old with my friends. And that picture right there
No, thank you.
was when it was 5 to 6 feet from me, um, towards the end when it was about to pounce on me at the top of the stairs, when I thought, I was dead, when it was my life flashed before my eyes. My best friend was to the right of me, and that was right before the train came. That thing it was ready to pounce. That's the face it made. So, and you could see
Jeez.
its eyes. You could see its eyes glowing, and they had like a power source behind them. That is exactly what I saw. So that's, Joe Stone. That's exactly, right now, that's the one I can give you. So there's two more coming up in the next week that are pretty crazy. One of them is from Joe Stone, about it has to do with the hospital and her nursing mates. There's a story with her and her friends, her fellow nurses that I'm going to be talking about. That she was nice enough to let me have the info. So that'll be one that's going to be pretty crazy. But there's another one as well.
Like that is intense, man. Seeing that and what is with the glowing eyes? Because I've explained that I had an experience not with a dog man, but with a shadow person with red. Their eyes were red, but they were glowing like that as well. And it's so bizarre. Like this glow, this incandescent glow. It's not like flashlight shooting out, but
No,
it's this incandescent glow. It's really off-putting as well. Well, of course, seeing a dog man hunting you is very off-putting.
right.
Let alone the eyes glowing as well.
Right.
Yes.
And as I said, there's in all of my interviews, people have asked over and over, what do you think? Do you think this thing is natural? Do you think that this thing is supernatural? And what you can see on all of my newer videos and live streams is, um, I have a sponsor, and that's from ETS, Exposing the Strange. Uh, they are sponsoring Planet 412, and I am going to be in a documentary that they are releasing in 2025. And in my in this kind of ad that I have on my pre-recorded and live streams and such, uh, David Wolf talks, and he asks me that question: do you think this thing's natural or supernatural? And I say supernatural, because this thing did things that were, there's no way anything of the natural world that it could do. Its eyes were freaking glowing. It walked past the wall inside of that blast furnace building, and when it walked by the wall, it lit the wall up with its eyes. It was leaving the building, and it started to lose shape of its body. It was like an amorphous shadow. I mean, I had, there's nothing more that you can say other than it was supernatural. Is it, is it a hellhound? Is it, I don't know. It definitely was nothing of the normal world. It came from elsewhere.
100%. Yeah, that is extremely bizarre. Like we have no explanations for that. I know a lot of people want to jump on the camp of it being a physical thing, and of course, it is partially physical, but the things it's doing are not natural. You know, it's, you know, it is physically here, but then when it starts to dissipate into a shadow, turn into a shadow, or start to flicker when it's by the fire as well. I think you mentioned that, like its paw was kind of like phasing in and out, which is crazy as well. You know, it really, really baffles you. Now,
Can I say one thing real quick?
Of course, of course.
If you have seen Brad and Ryan, I want to say this, and everybody in the chat, if you guys have seen some of the newer documentaries out there, like what's the one, Bigfoot, A Flash of Beauty, and then there's other documentaries or some of the cuts that are out there on for Bigfoot, they have actual videos out there where they have caught, be it Bigfoot or Dogman or whatever they are, they're saying they're Bigfoot, that are cloaked, and that they're catching them cloaked running through the woods, and you're seeing them like it's like a predator effect, and they have them, they are catching them. And you know, that is exactly what me and my friend saw when this thing did that by the fire. It was just its one arm and hand. But when I saw this, you know, in 2024, I saw that on that documentary, and you can find it on YouTube. They've got a number of them now where like on that Flash, I think it's the Flash of Beauty or whatever, and there's a couple others. And the one lady, they're talking, and she's talking with this two other people, and they're talking about another time they were there, when it happened over there, and she goes, did you just see that? And they rewind it. You can rewind it, and then whoever made the video has it, you know, pulled up and enhanced. You see something run through, and the bushes move, and there's something. It's like that predator effect. That's what we saw.
That is really interesting. You wonder where they got that idea from the Predator movie for that. You know, that cloaking.
They say that movies are, you know, a way for the government and other people that are feeding us a tiny bit of reality in these movies to kind of, you know, get us ready for us. They do say that sometimes.
Yep.
So.
I agree. I agree. I believe it's like soft disclosure, you know, just gently showing you these things. So if you actually do see something, it's not a complete doesn't drive you completely batty and put you in that hypnotic state, like Brad was saying, you know, like if something is so intense, maybe we're able to accept it a little bit more. And so the other day I was watching another show, another podcast. I'm sure everyone has heard of, you know, Blondes and Booze. And Brandy talks about her hitchhikers and the hitchhiker phenomena. And I don't know, have you guys ever heard of the hitchhiker phenomena?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is something like I've had so many experiences. I literally forget about some of them. And of course, I remembered that I had a hitchhiker experience with my friend AJ. So if you guys don't mind, I'm gonna tell a little story about my hitchhiker experience. So, what this was, and this was back in, and I made notes because that's what I do. So in 2012. So that seems to always be a big one. July 1st, 2012. And so what it was kind of like an impromptu camping trip of sorts. So I had just finished a sweat lodge with my dear friend, Joanne Beam. She runs a sweat lodge, and that's the one that I used to always help out with. And so I decided that I wanted to just drive into the mountains. I didn't have a destination. I was just going to drive and go. And my friend AJ came along with me, and my dog Peanut, my little boy Peanut. And so that evening we just drove deep into the mountains on these back roads. And I found a spot that was way out of the way. And like this road looked barely used. And the sun was pretty much almost gone completely. So it was dark at that time. So I was happy at that. And being July 1st in Canada at that time, if the sun is just setting, that there is just going down and it's getting pretty dark. That's probably around 10 o'clock at night because the sun goes down pretty late then around then. And so we parked and we got out of the truck and just to check out the surroundings. And like I said, there wasn't much to see because the sun had gone down, so it was dark. And my friend asked me if I was afraid of big cats, okay, like cougars. And he's like, "Are those out here?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, but they're more terrified of us than we are of them. Like they will avoid us at all costs." So I let my dog out into the ditch and we walked down there too. We walked up to, there's a fence and we walked up to the fence and I believe there was some cattle in there. I can't fully recall, but I turned on my flashlight and that's when I heard a large cat made a growling sound. Okay. And it chilled my blood to the bone. And it was like a kind of thing like this. I'm not doing it justice, but I was like, what the hell? And we both look at each other and I run and grab my dog is a tiny dog. He's 5 pounds soaking wet. So I ran and pick him up and we jump into the truck and we're like, what the hell was that? Like there was no way that there should be a cougar there. No way. So we get into the truck and it got pretty cold. Like it's July, but we're in the mountains, so it does still get pretty cold. So I didn't sleep very much, and I ended up wanting to start my truck early in the morning. So I go to try starting it. My battery on my truck is 100% drained. Okay, we didn't have anything on, but my battery is completely drained, and this has never happened to my, like, it wasn't like I had battery problems before. So we had to wait till, the sun came up in the morning, and I'm a little worried because, firstly, I have no idea where I drove. I just took random, which wasn't smart. I just like random turns. I'm going to go here, going to go here, going to go here. And then being how remote it was, and I can't get my truck started. Like, what the hell is going on? And then secondly, like my phone is not really working out here too. There's no service. So we're like, we need to go try to walk down this back road in the mountains and try to find someone. Luckily, about 1 kilometer down the road, there was a house. So it was about 7 in the morning, and I walk and I'm knocking on the door at 7 in the morning, and the gentleman was like, "Sure, yeah, I'll come give you a boost." So he came and got me a boost, and I was like, "Okay, that's fine." So I drove back to my friend Joanne's place, where my friend AJ, his wife at the time, stayed overnight there, and so I dropped him off. And I'm like, I'm going home. And Joanne kind of looked at me peculiarly. Okay. And she never said anything. So I just kind of brushed everything off, and I thought, it'll be fine when I get home and I can catch up on some sleep. And so I get home and I go chill out in bed kind of thing. And I got my phone with me and I'm chilling in bed, and I can see outside into my living room, and I have my lamp on in my living room, and all of a sudden I heard a click and my light goes off in the living room. And it was one of those, it was a salt lamp, one of those Himalayan salt lamps.
And it had one right behind the camera.
Oh, okay. There we go. And this one had a rolling switch. I don't know if you guys know those rolling switches. You kind of like roll it like this. They kind of had like
exactly the little... what this one has. Yeah.
Okay.
That's so funny.
Okay. So it turned off. So
that's weird.
It turned off by itself. Like
that's
the
not
only
easy
way
to do.
No, the only way that it could potentially be done without it being an outside force is if I rolled it, like I turned it on and then rolled it just to a point where it was just on the edge where I can flick back like that. But I didn't do that, right? That's not something I did at all. And so the light turns off and I'm like, oh, what the hell was that? And then shortly after that, I think I was reading a book on my cell phone. A painting on the wall behind me, hanging over my bed, falls off the wall and hits me on the head. Okay.
You're lucky to get messed up, man.
Well, it wasn't like the one behind Brad that's like all wood or anything like that. This was a pretty light gauge painting, but like it was just a small frame, and it wasn't like it was heavily framed or anything. But it fell off the wall and hit me on the head. I'm sitting. It wasn't like things are moving around and stuff like that. No, I'm sitting there reading a book or on my cell phone. You're not moving. And it just kind of like, it was up here and it's just like, boom, and hit me on the head. And at that point, I'm like, okay, something's not right here, and I was like, something followed me home. So I messaged Joanne right away and I'm like, I said, I said, Joanne, I think I got a little bit of an issue. And she's like, something followed you home, didn't it? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, I saw that. I saw that there was something around you when you came back to the sweat lodge, like to my house to drop off AJ. There was something not completely right. So she had sensed this, but she never told me. I'm like, thanks, Joanne. Thanks for telling me. So I ended up clearing my place. And for those who don't know, I had Joanne kind of had taken me under her wing, taught me a lot of the ways of the native Indians. I'm not native or Indian. I didn't necessarily ask, but it was kind of, I just followed in those footsteps of that. And she kind of took me in and taught me many things. So I was able to clear my place. And after that, gone, nothing. And my truck then, when I went downstairs, I was afraid that it wouldn't start again, but it started. But needless to say, around a month later, like I started having battery trouble and I had to replace my battery. But everything that happened seemed quite coincidental around the timing. Like everything was kind of at this point. I had this experience with this large cat out that I could not see. I could just hear. And then my truck battery is drained and dead. My light is turning off in my room, in my living room. And then, a painting flies off the wall and hits me on the head. So it was quite peculiar and I would say that would be my hitchhiker type story, which is, just another thing.
That's freaky, man. And right, what I'm planning to do. I didn't get to do it in 2024, but I'm going to do it this year in 2025, which is, where I'm going to have you stay at home base and take care of. That's going to happen for sure. Huge surprise. I can't give any more but it's going to be cool. So I've teased it before where me and a few people are going to go to a location, everybody, sometime in 2025. Rye's going to be, he's going to be the
home base,
taking control of everything. But I want to make sure, and BJ, we've talked to you actually on a live stream, make sure that we're protected and don't have anything, coming home with us and hitchhiking. So I want to make sure that does not happen. My wife does not want me to go where we're planning because he does not want anything coming home. But that definitely will be needed to protect ourselves.
Definitely. Brad, anything on that experience or anything you want to?
Yeah, I think that I'm starting to think more and more that the energy that people interact with is lower versions of themselves is the best way to describe it.
Okay.
I think that there are levels inside of us, atoms within atoms within atoms within atoms that we can experience at different times. And if we are at a certain vibration, you can, intermingle with some of those bad energies. And that's why I think when you say the name of Christ, which means God saves, which is stems from the word Jehovah, which means God saves. I think that you flood yourself with light and you become enlightened, which raises yourself up to a higher vibration. And that's why I think the name of Christ saves you from these experiences or these things that are. So I think that these things may be lower vibrational beings of ourselves that we interact with at different times. And if you don't always keep yourself at a higher vibration, these things can manifest around you. And I think that a lot of times it really is the upside down. It's the antimatter of our reality. And so light is an electromagnetic wave that oscillates electric and magnetic frequency, and they oscillate like perfectly parallel to each other. They come right up to each other and touch each other, right? So we're just light beings that are vibrating at certain energy levels. And so I think that those different versions, again, when I said something about the antimatter, like if you think about, these dogmen and things like that, for example, it's almost an inverted or crazier version of a dog, right? Except the dog has red eyes and it's got feet, and it's a bizarro world version of a dog, almost as if that's like an inner dog or a darker energy of a dog that you're seeing. So like Bigfoot might be a darker version of a chimp or an ape or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like there's darker versions and there's higher versions of them. So I just think that there's different levels that we're interacting with of ourselves in a lot of ways. And if you have dark energy, if you have trapped up things in your past that have, that you're holding on to, that sort of manifested into an egregore of something inside of yourself, I think that those things can come up. So I think they're always with us, that they don't present themselves until you manifest them into a reality that follows you around, and you don't get rid of them until you tell them to leave or tell them to go away or tell them to cease or bring the name of Christ in. So I'm sorry if I'm making your head hurt, Carol.
I think that's awesome. I think that's really interesting. I like that thought. That's what you're saying is it's kind of higher and lower selves.
I like that too. Yeah,
of something we're seeing. Like it could be that's interesting. It is very, very interesting. I think we need to go deeper into that.
Well, I think that when people go out looking for Bigfoot in the woods, I don't actually think that people might find that kind of stuff. I think that it's something that is within you that can manifest around you at any time, right? And it's like, if you are more of an enlightened being, then you're probably not going to experience a lot of that stuff. But I do think that there are ways, like we were talking about a radio station on my show the other day, right? It's like, it's that in between. Sometimes people might get caught in between those little frequencies when you're tuning a radio dial. And
see, that's
right?
what I think. I think maybe that we're kind of tuned into another frequency, and we are then able to see these things. And that's why some people don't see them and some people do, is because they're tuned into those frequencies. And perhaps when you're with a group, maybe you all adjust your frequencies accordingly. You kind of like find a medium. And because women adjust and they all have their same time of sorts. But that's what I'm saying, is that maybe us as individuals, we're kind of on a different frequency than other people, but we stay together, such as like Matt with you and your friends. When you all saw this, you all experienced the same thing because you were all on that same frequency wavelength. And it could be because you guys were all good friends and you spent that time together already, that you were able to, you guys were all there and able to see this. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Now
it's like the what's the guy Stephen Greer who does those CE5 events where everybody sees like lights in the sky and different things, like they get together and manifest their energy into manifest something into reality. And I think that maybe those things that are blinking lights at them and stuff are just versions of themselves in a different realm that are just saying, hey, we're here, we just can't interact. These things don't ever really hurt people, right? I mean, they probe. I mean, I guess aliens probe people, but how many stories do you hear of Bigfoot just ripping someone apart? Is that a regular thing? I truly don't know. I'm asking, but
you never get like official word. But here's the thing, we're getting on a whole different ball of wax there. But you get into the missing 411, and you hear about all the people, and it's more and more we're hearing about every year about in our national parks and our forests and stuff. People are disappearing. I mean, it's not just people just getting lost in the woods, so what could easily take some of these people, and it could be these cryptids, not just Bigfoot, it could be dogmen and doing it too. You hear about with Bigfoot more, nonviolent events occur with Bigfoot, that they just don't want nothing to do with humans. They take off. They don't want to be seen. You do hear of some violent or bluff charges occur with Bigfoot, or you hear of some violent ones. With the dogmen ones, the majority into the 90 up higher 90 percentiles, all negative. So
can I say one more thing, please? The world that we live in is probably the supernatural world, because we live in this 0.0035% of visible light. Everything else is in that 99.9965%. So when we think of something as supernatural, that might be the more natural world, because we exist in this, what I call God's light. It's the electromagnetic, it's the visible light of the electromagnetic spectrum. And I think that when we're a bunch of atoms vibrating together, right? And when we walk through electric energy fields, like magnetic fields, it can separate you. It can separate those atoms, and I think it can dematerialize people. And so when someone walks through, if you talk about missing 411, if someone walks through that energy field and it separates them, then they can very easily slip into that 99.9965% world. Right. So I think it's an energy thing, always an energy thing. We're made of energy. We're light beings that are vibrating at a certain frequency.
I'll say something, Brad. You know what? You're the first person who I have ever heard say something similar to what I've said to people many, many times. So like I'm like stoked that you just said that, because I've said so many times, and I've said it to you, Rye. I've said it to like friends and family of mine when the supernatural conversations come up. I've said numerous times, what if we are the ghosts? What if we are the strange, when we see the shadow people or the paranormal and they notice us, and the shadow people come up and they're looking at us and they're freaking us out? What if they're looking at us like, oh my God, what is that? What is that? What if we are that? So I agree with you, brother. We very well could be. It could be reversed. That's awesome. I love that you just said that, man.
And if people can see, we're probably like living in this like world where it's an energy world, like electromagnetic world. And if there are beings on the other side, they can just like touch a frame and it make it fall on Rye's head, right? It's like I really think that is happening. Like they can see us, but we can't see them. And they can interact with us.
Veil, baby. The veil is right there. Things are people and things are walking, creatures. They're walking around us right now. We can't see them. Like you just brought up, man, there's and I believe it too, an extremely just small smidgen of that vibrational field is separating us from all these different kinds of whacked out beings and different dimensions, and just one little change, like you just said, man, the missing 411, maybe, not all of them, but some of those cases, their vibrational field has switched, boom, gone, they're somewhere else.
Yeah, I do agree. Okay, guys, I'm going to do another channel membership giveaway. So I'm going to do that here right now. Let's hang on here, getting it ready. Let's do that membership gifting another 5 here right now. Yeah, let's see who all gets and again, it's always random, so hopefully it's people in the actual chat, but if it isn't, it isn't. So it doesn't look like anybody in the chat. I feel sorry for Mouse, because Mouse, I've been gifting these for a long time now, and you've never gotten one. So, but excellent. So, again, it's always random. I don't pick it. YouTube decides, and that is it. So, also, I'm going to bring in another guest. I'm going to bring in Caesar from Beyond the Frequency 369. So Caesar is going to join us as well here in just about a minute or two. Anything else that you guys want to talk about? Well, I'm just organizing this.
No, I like where the conversation is going, man. I mean, I like having just like my world feels like it's becoming that, weirdly scientific type metaphysical world. And I love adding or feeling like I'm adding to the conversation of cryptids and paranormal and things like that, because I think all of that stuff exists, obviously. But again, I just think it's energy levels. And I think that's an important part of the conversation that's been missing for a long time.
I agree with you.
So do you think that like we're matching these energy, we're matching these frequencies, and by matching those frequencies, then we're maybe perhaps we are the key then, we're able to unlock certain things. I believe that these other creatures are entering through portals otherwise, but I believe though that us having to visually see them is that we are kind of the key as well.
Well, if you look at every historical site in the world, megalithic structures all over the world, you'll see a depiction of a spiral. And those spirals to me are markings, or they're like they're saying that there's a portal here, or there's energy here, meaning not a portal like we might think of from the movies with green plasma, whatever, but actual there's an effect from the telluric currents of Earth, which is the natural electrical energies that flow up from volcanoes and crevices and stuff like that. And these things, when an electric field hits a portion of the magnetic field, it can separate those two lines that I was just saying, the electric and the magnetic waves. It can separate them briefly, and something can come in, right? And so all these stone structures around the world have markings. And someone in the chat mentioned Skinwalker Ranch. In Skinwalker Ranch, they literally film one. They show one on Skinwalker Ranch that looks like a tornado. They found it, and then at the bottom of that, there was these stones in like a spiral that was a marking for that very vortex that they found. So I think that they can come into that vortex at certain times of day when that magnetic field is affected, and which is usually, at dusk. And also people that, by the way, when people are hunting, we're talking about missing 411, they're usually hunting at night as the sun's going down. And so both things are happening. We can cross into their world and they can cross into our world. We just don't know how to enter that and change our vibrational status to go into that world. But I think it happens on accident in some of these places. And that's why I think all these national forests exist, because they keep us away from these areas that have these magnetic fields. Because if everybody was walking through these things, we would just be dispersing out into the 99.9965%.
And there's also something very obviously special about our planet, that all these beings, and we're seeing all this high strangeness always happening here for whatever reason. You have these ley lines and everything. What are they? I always go blank on this. The pictures you can only see from air in Peru. What do they call those again?
Geoglyphs. They're geoglyphs.
The giant pictures on the ground.
Yeah.
Geoglyphs.
Yeah. So that's just one of many things. It's just so many different things going on here. And the last thing I want to say real quick is, Ryan, I love your background, man. It's clean. I like it, man.
Thanks. Yeah, it was my upgrade. It was definitely, I appreciate that. And I just want to introduce Caesar from Beyond the Frequency 369. Glad to have you on there, Caesar.
Hey, Caesar, nice to meet you, man.
What's up, guys? Can you guys hear me just fine?
Yeah,
we can. It sounds great, man.
Yeah,
fantastic. I appreciate that. I saw some folks give me a little shout out on the comments. So what's up, guys? I'm happy to be on board and talking to these fine gentlemen this evening. So what are you guys talking about? I'm trying to catch up, reading some of the chats and hearing you guys.
Well, so it's my 1 year anniversary show, of course. And so what we're doing, what we did do in the beginning was kind of like the most memorable show that each of us have had. And then now we've gone from there. Now we're kind of going into like the metaphysical side of what is, how these experiences are happening, or what these experiences really are, these cryptid experiences, these portals and everything. And Brad was going into quite a good detail about it, that we're kind of matching frequencies, perhaps that and we're able to access this other side because we're also at the ley lines and we're at the right point at the right time. And that's when these things are happening, which is I like that. And I know I'm butchering it, Brad. I apologize, but yeah, so that's what we're doing. So Caesar, why don't you give a little shout out to who you are and your show as well, for those who don't know.
Sure, I appreciate that, Ryan. So again, my name is Caesar Pagan. I'm a new podcaster. Okay, so I just started off about September of last year. My boy Brad over there got me with the itch. So I've always wanted to do a podcast, and Brad was kind enough to bring me on board and just to kind of shoot the shit. and it turns out, it was exactly the spark that I needed for what my calling was. So I've been doing the podcast since I'm on my season 2, because I do like 20 episodes per season, and my show gears towards people with supernatural abilities. So you have your channelers, your mediums, your psychics, people who leave their body and go to other realms and talk about those experiences. I'm into the ancient Egyptian myths and stories. The Atrahasis, the Numi Lish, all these Anunnaki stories. I like to always just put it up front if anybody's curious. I am not a religious person, but I am a spiritual one. Okay, so there's nothing between me and the creator, source, Kishna. I think they have different names for him and things like that. But yeah, and I'm not afraid to say this, but I do believe I am a god.
Cool. You know what? It's funny you say that, because I just interviewed a gentleman, Will Batty. I hate that, but he says he wrote a book called, You Are the God You Seek.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what you are implying. Like we're always outside, seeking outside, and there's always, like, the creator has created us, so that spark is within us of him. That what he created is within us. So we are part of him. We are a God as well. We are part of God as well.
Yeah, exactly. Again, and to clarify, not saying that I am God. I say I am a God. Okay, there is a difference in that, and yeah, you're right. We are, we are a fractal of the one. So we have that ability. I like to tell folks that I use this phrase a lot on my show, that everybody's so trained into looking into the universe, right? Into anything outside of you. But what about looking into the you-inverse, right? What about looking into yourself? Okay. Everybody's, since we're born, we're being taught to worship things and look outside of us. If you need help, therapy, they tell you to go talk to somebody else. Don't talk to yourself, because you're crazy. If you're sick, go to the doctor. Don't heal yourself. You don't know anything about that, So, and then when you're hearing voices, they're like, yeah, you need to shut that down, So the point is that I don't believe in all that. I know, like how you were implying there too. I talk to myself. I'm the one that knows what I need, for me. Like I said, if I do believe that I am a God and everything, then I don't need to worship myself. I just need to talk to myself. And I think that's one thing that Yeshua was teaching to everybody. He's saying, he goes, you guys can do what I can do. He was a student, so when he went out there and he preached, he was trying to show everybody, hey guys, I learned this too. Like, I know what's going on. Like, here's how to do it. But believe in yourself, talk to yourself, put yourself in this mindset, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And people just twisted that and just say, no, not us, you. So, anyways, worshiping, I don't do that.
Fantastic. I like that point of thought, like just have a conversation with yourself, because I feel that we are very disconnected from ourselves. We'd rather look outside, and this goes for everything, not even just finding our answers, but we'd rather go look outside to fix things that are outside instead of trying to fix what's inside of us. We take 1,000 disasters and other people's dilemmas and issues, then taking that 1 hour, 1 minute to look within and to actually look at yourself in that mirror and to see yourself. And that's something that just doesn't happen. It's we and I don't know if you're into the new age, but I one thing I always say is that I feel the new age is a bit of a quagmire, because people get stuck there. They get stuck and they're like light and love to everybody else, but they never actually go and work on themselves. They're all about, let's go do this, but they never take a minute to look at themselves. And hey, it took me a while to realize that myself, because I was through it. I think a lot of us go through that. It's part of the process, but you need to leave that. You need to move on from that.
I love that, Ray. That is a great point, because I've talked to this to some folks the last couple of weeks, is that everybody feels there's a change coming, right? Or there has been a change that has been happening. But the problem is that people are focused on, well, some people don't know how to interpret that change. So they start to try to change things outside of themselves. They change their appearance, a new haircut. Maybe they try to change other people. They try to change their environment. And through all these different outside changes, they still end up feeling unsatisfied. Like
Yes,
I don't know what's going on with me, and that's because the changes needs to be done within yourself.
Yes.
So when we talk about change, it's about you. It's always been about you from day one, from the day that you were born to the day that you die. It's about changing you. When you change you, when you change your mind, it affects your body and affects your environment. So again, everything that I pretty much talk about is about the you inverse. It's about you. It's about you. It's not about them or they.
I agree totally. Hey, Bryce, no, Brad is just going to be right back, so he did not leave for the night. Awesome. I agree. It's all about that, and that's what it's all about, going within and searching for ourselves. That's one of the reasons why I did this show, is because I have a lot of unanswered questions that I'm searching for, and I'm we're searching outside, but we're also searching within as well. And I think you can go hand in hand. You can have that balance. It's about having balance, because you don't want to be too centric upon searching inside, because we are naturally explorers. We are natural explorers. That is something that comes to every single one of us. We're all explorers. So search within, but also search outside as well. Not for the God you seek, but searching for other answers as well. Trying to find where these cryptids are coming from, trying to find answers for your friends, or for your guests is something that I think is something that we should all do.
Yeah. Hey, Matt, I love the Batman light in the back, dude.
Thanks,
I'm a Batman guy. Can you see the Batarang right down there?
No.
It's underneath.
Underneath the eye. Yeah, I can. I can make it out.
That's the only Batman thing that you see on the screen. But I'm a Batman guy. Like, I have Batman everything. So
I have a combination of stuff. So you got.
Oh, you got. What's the Omnier?
Mjolnir. Yeah.
The big hammer. Love it, man. Love it. That is so cool. That is
I got that. I got all kinds of. I got a really, really cool. I don't have it near me, but Tyler, DJ Tyler, got me a really cool. Thank you, Bryce.
That is worthy.
A really cool Hulk necklace. it's like the Incredible Hulk, like hulking out. He got me. It was really cool to buy it for me and send it. I really appreciate it. In fact, I was going to tell you, Tyler, I wore that recently. They had there was a comic book store that was having this thing, and I wore it there, and everyone's like, "Where did you get that, man? How do I get one of those?" I said, "I don't know, man. My dude got it for me." I said, "So can't help you."
Cool.
Love it. Hey, I want to know real quick. I want to know what's all of us here. What's your favorite superhero? I'm just curious.
Mine is, you know what? I'm gonna have to say, out of all of them, ooh, and it's close, man, because Wolverine's probably number one, but it's like close because Thor is really close there. And then, like when I was a little kid, it was Spider-Man, and so like, I don't know,
So
man.
today is like what, Wolverine? That's
Wolverine's probably my all-time favorite, yeah, and that goes
nice.
back a long time. So like, let's see, so like Hulk 181 right there. I actually have Hulk 181, which is the first full appearance of Wolverine. I have 180 and 181. You can look up the price of those comics, man. That's
I was
like
going to ask you. Just spill the beans, man. What's the price on that?
the I have it in mint condition. That's over. Well, let's see what it is right now. It's thousands.
People want to know.
I got it for $10 when I was a little kid. $10.
Yeah.
I forget what the name. It was a little comic book store. Let's see.
I bet
For me, I would have to say it's a toss up between Wolverine is always a classic, but I would definitely say it kind of goes in between Spider-Man and Thor and Wolverine, between those three.
Can't go wrong with that, man. Brad, who you got?
Let's see. The average it's going for right now, Go Collect is saying, let's see.
Be careful the price that you put out there, because if you put out a good number, somebody here on this chat is going to come find you.
No, there's a lot of weapons in this house, so they better be careful coming knocking on my door.
Matt has had to deal with Dogman, so he can deal with a regular man.
And I have it, you know how you can get them
graded.
Graded. Mine's graded too. So right now it's worth $18,500.
Damn.
Yeah, and my wife doesn't want. She's like, "Don't sell your collection yet. You're gonna leave that to your daughter." I'm like, "But I can't take it with me."
Oh,
but yeah, that one
down. That's Hulk 81, huh?
181.
Wow.
I have both 180.
I bought the wrong comic book.
So 180 is his first appearance. He just shows up on the very last page, and then 181, which is the picture I got right here. It's the full fight between Hulk and Wendigo and Wolverine, and that's the full appearance. That's the one that's worth the big money, right?
That's crazy. I didn't mean to throw everybody off on this thing, but I was just curious. But hey, I wonder is Hulk considered a cryptid?
I don't think so. I wouldn't call him a
He's
cryptid.
more of a were creature. I would say he's more of a were creature because he changes, kind of like a werewolf kind of thing.
Now, the Wendigo is for sure. I mean, we all know what the Wendigo is. So, and Wolverine was sent and that's the first time, it says he's here, the world's first and greatest Canadian superhero, because that the Wendigo was, the Wendigo was, eating people and stuff like that, and they him and Hulk were fighting, and they sent Wolverine to take care of things. And
what about the metahumans or the superheroes? What about the talk about them actually being the fallen angels? Them based on fallen angels as well. There is a possibility of that. Yeah. I
Well,
don't know.
real quick, I want to say this: that if you're really being geekish about it, so like if anybody knows that the Alpha Flight, if you guys remember Alpha Flight in Marvel, Sasquatch is one of Alpha Flight's members. So there's another cryptid, and then Werewolf by Night is another Marvel Comics character. They actually had a really cool new movie, short movie thing on Disney Plus. They did it really well, and Man Thing was in that. So
Interesting.
and
Never
they've got
heard that guy.
Dracula too.
Is that like Swamp Thing?
Yeah, they're nothing alike. Man Thing is so much cooler than Swamp Thing. Yeah,
That's the difference because he's cooler.
Watch if you got Disney Plus. Watch Werewolf by Night. You'll really like it. It's actually really cool.
I'm gonna check it out. Werewolf.
Yeah, it's cool. And the Man Thing. So if you have like, if you're impure or something like that, you're a bad person, and he touches you, you like will catch fire and burn to death. And
Oh, that's not cool.
what does it say? Grand Zero 12, Matt, don't forget Werewolf by Lunchtime as well.
Oh, hey, Mouse just sang the classic song of Swamp Thing. I don't know how many folks actually know it. It goes Swamp Thing, da na 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 na. You make my heart sing like that. That's how it goes.
I remember the 80s movie Swamp Thing. I actually watched that recently.
Yeah. No, that's good.
A good movie. I'll never forget that.
Yeah,
There's one guy chopped his arm off with the machete, and he grabbed the top of his head with his other hand, and he crushed his skull, and blood came out of his mouth. And I'll have to review that for everybody. Right, we'll have to do that on a review.
We will.
Yeah, it's on different ways on this show, but we're still talking about cryptids and stuff like that. So
it is.
Hey,
Yes.
we never got Brad's hero though. My bad.
yeah, Brad, who's your favorite superhero?
Well, I got two. The first one is Jesus Christ, and you should all be ashamed of yourself for not saying Jesus first. But second of all, like people always forget about Howard the Duck. He was a Marvel superhero as well.
Oh my God!
He came from the planet Duck World. He was just watching TV one day, got launched into the universe, and ended up on Earth fighting crime and saving the world. So let's not forget about Howard the Duck, the ultimate Marvel.
I just had a headache like right on my temple when you said that.
One of the first Marvel movies ever was Howard.
Yep.
They did him justice in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Agreed. Has anybody watched the original Howard the Duck movie?
That's what I just said. He was one of the first Marvel movies.
I'm asking, did you see it though?
Yes, I did. In the 80s, I saw it, dude. I was a kid.
Yeah, me too. I saw that too as a kid.
Yeah. What's the girl's name who was in it with him?
The girl from Back to the Future.
Yeah. She was like in bed with him, and she touched him, and his feathers went up on his head.
1986, Howard the Duck. Let's see here. It got 4.8 stars out of 10.
It's Leah Thompson.
Pizza the Hut. Yes.
Lee Thompson, Jeffrey Jones, and Tim Robbins. Interesting. That is
all-star cast
was from Spaceballs. I remember Pizza the Hut.
Pizza the Hut, yeah.
Pizza the Hut. Spaceballs was classic, man.
That was a great movie.
Yeah.
I was just saying also the other to somebody today about what's the blue guy's name from Guardians of the Galaxy? I forgot his name. The whistling.
It's on the tip of my tongue, and I should be ashamed of myself. Yondu,
yeah. Well, when he was that scene made me cry whenever he said he might have been your father, but I'm your daddy. I was like, broke me, man. But he was a real superhero.
That killed me.
Yeah. He was a real superhero in that movie too, man. He didn't get any love.
Yeah.
True.
Great movie.
Fantastic. So when you're talking about like metaphysical and sorry, like powers, people having powers, would that mean like predictions? You know, people have out of body. Would people being like mediums and stuff, like be able to see things into the future? what was probably the craziest story that you heard, Caesar, on your show from one of your guests?
Dang, that's a good question, man. I mean, to be honest, I value every guest. I mean, every story.
That's kind of Brad's answer too. That was Brad's more or less his answer. He kind of said like every episode is the best episode. So
yeah, they're all like the next one is always the best one, you know, and they're all, and the rest of them are classics, you know. I don't know. I think, okay, let me do this. Recently, I'm into outer body. Okay, I'm into outer body, NDEs, near death experiences, astral projection, that kind of stuff. I'm into that right now. So that right now currently has my interest.
I'll have to talk to him about mine someday.
Yeah, I would love to hear that, Matt. And I'm also currently working on, in this season, I'm putting some guests together. I've been into the whole connecting to the other side, or what some would call in the community home, you know, the actual place we're all from. And I was introduced by a friend to a podcast called the Telepathy Tapes. And I don't know if anybody's ever heard of this. It talks about nonverbal autistic children who obviously they can't speak, but somehow they're communicating and they're learning things. And fast forward, they basically are now able to communicate with their parents, like their moms, their dads, their teachers, their helpers, through telepathy. And they're reading people's minds. They're connecting to, you know, the other side, angels. And there's this common place that thousands of autistic kids from all around the world go to, called The Hill. And it's this like ethereal place that they all go and teach each other, because no one else in the physical world is wanting to teach them, because they think they can't be taught. Some of these kids are, you know, savants and things like that. So I'm putting together some parents and their nonverbal autistic children to come on the show and see if we can do some telepathy in real time, you know, and also talk about their journey from not being able to communicate. Some of these kids even say, "Hey, I've been here all of this time, but I can't speak," until they get these machines that allow them to spell out what they're saying and stuff. It's a whole thing, but I'm just like, yeah, I dig it, you know.
I like it. I think that is interesting. We actually just got a good question here, so let's start around the clock here. So start with Brad. What was your first media experience with the paranormal? You know, a TV show, radio show, book, word of mouth, or other? Like, what kind of got you, or was it an experience that got you into paranormal, or anything along this line? I don't want to say just paranormal, but we'll say supernatural. I think, or high strangeness.
Well, I think the first thing I ever remember, really, I mean, obviously we've heard stories our whole lives, probably from, I mean, it's ingrained in every society, every culture around the world. But, you know, like locally, we have some stuff that's happened locally. Like we've had these things called ghost lights and things like that. My first encounter with this type of energy, I guess, was when I was in my mom's belly when she was pregnant with me. Her and my dad went, and the popular thing to do back, she was 17 at the time, was to go park down a dirt road and cut off your lights and wait for the ghost light. And it actually appeared right in front of her. So that was my first encounter. But really and truthfully, I mean, as I got older, my dad always did haunted house tours and things like that with us. And, but it was never like taken seriously. I did have an actual encounter with a ghost, I guess you could say, me and my friends and my dad at our house with what I call a ghost horse. But as I got older, it kind of faded away. And then when the internet first got popular in the late 90s, I remember hearing about the 33rd parallel, and I kind of was like, oh, that's interesting. But it went away. You couldn't find anything online about it for forever. And then I heard about it again later on, 15 years later, 20 years later almost. And I started researching it more. So really the 33rd parallel was kind of what propelled me into paranormal, high strangeness, ley lines, earth energies, things like that. I would say, but really I've had and stuff happen throughout life, little things, ghosts and noises and things like that. So I always knew it was real, you know.
Cool. That is awesome. And Caesar?
I'm half Panamanian, half Puerto Rican, and in my Panamanian culture, we believe a lot in the supernatural. And I just grew up hearing stories that, you know, I had aunts that would walk through walls or get super strength. My grandfather was a white warlock. Never understood what that really was, but I did hear that he had a spell book of prayers, if you will. Like one time he was being chased down an alley by some guys in his teenage years or something like that. I don't know. Anyways, he did some kind of spell, and then they went to the alley and they didn't see him, but he was there. And I was like, you know, I know. And it's stuff that, but those stories got me interested. That's to answer this question. They got me interested into all that stuff. And I'm like, oh man, like we're more than just this meat suit, you know, like we're superheroes. And then I connected to comic books, which allowed me to just kind of learn more about the, you know, the non-human stuff. And then as I got older, the different things. So there's that.
By the way, I laughed at Caesar because he's a friend of mine. We go back 20 years. So like I've known I want to take it to all the Mexican jokes I got and all kind of stuff, man. I just don't. I was trying to refrain, but
Brad, but with that, his white warlock grandpa, you know, with he was able to disappear. Doesn't that tie into what you were saying? You know, like just, you know, be able to hit a frequency and be able to be that 99.96% where you kind of phase in and phase out. You know, it kind of, maybe he was able to phase in or phase out of a dimension, but still be there as well. So that's
exactly.
I think we all have this like supernatural ability for sure. We all have telepathy powers, and we all have these energies but they scramble our frequency with constant noise, constant frequencies around us. I mean, they got rid of bells and they got rid of all these things that would heal us. And then they started just like Mr. Enigma or Mr. E from Batman, right? They just pumping the signal straight into your brain. And that's literally causing our brains to be fried. That's why like every now and then you get this signal come through like, oh, I'm thinking about Caesar. And then all of a sudden he calls me, or I think about somebody all of a sudden and they die, or whatever the case is. I think that we still have that ability. It's just being scrambled, you know?
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I'm actually to add something to that regarding what's being, you know, what's suppressing us, or our light, if you will. Talking about the autism thing that I was talking to you about in my research with those folks, talking to them, I'm being learned that there's over 1,000 hormone suppressors airborne, you know, that are affecting us from actually being able to, you know, receive downloads and frequencies, you know, on a normal basis. And this is just the research that they've done. But I thought, you know, when you mentioned, you know, about suppressing that stuff, that reminded me of that. But yeah, it's all over, man. It's all over.
Cool. And Matt, what about you?
Well, before I say that, I like talking about what you guys were just saying. I just want to say everybody asks me all the time, how do I see, you know, high strangeness or anything? The only thing I want to just say real quick, stop looking down at your phone all the time, guys. Start looking up. Stop always walking around looking down. Take your time to look around, look up at night, spend some time doing something other than looking at your phone. In regards to what occurred to start piquing my interest into like supernatural and paranormal stuff, goes way back in my Lebanese heritage. I'm half Lebanese, half German Irish on the Lebanese side. Some of you have heard me talk about what happened with my great aunt and my great great uncle, great great grandfather, where with a jinn in Lebanon. I heard that story very young, and that piqued my interest when I was really young. Me and my younger brother in the house we grew up in Youngstown had something banging on my mom and dad's bedroom door trying to get in when we were really young. And we were flipping out, holding the door. Nobody was up there, and my mom had come upstairs. She was downstairs cooking, and when she came up and opened the door, nobody was out there, and we got a whooping from mom. She thought we were lying to her, making all the noise, but something was trying to get in the door. That was the only paranormal something that happened in this house we were at. The next thing that happened to me was when I was 14. And then that, of course, I never forgot that. But then,
yeah, that was just something small that happened when you were 14.
I'll never forget it, man. That was, I mean, compared to what happened when I was 14. I mean, you know, and being like I was probably, I mean, 6 when that happened. So it stuck with me, but I didn't really start thinking of like going back to that till like, you know, when I got older. I remember that occurred, and I talked to my little brother, you know, about it. It's like, hey, you remember that summer when because we had you know, an old house we lived in on the north side of Youngstown. In the summer, each room had the air conditioner units, so the doors had to be closed. It wasn't central air, and we were playing with Hot Wheels cars on my mom and dad's bed, and something banged on the door, and I thought it was my mom. It was during the day. It was just us 3 at the house. I opened the door and nobody was out there. All the doors in the upstairs were closed. Closed the door. I started to walk back to the bed. Bam, bam, bam. And I turned around. I was scared, and the door was like really getting banged on. I ran over and I was holding it, and it was like pushing me back. My little brother, Greg, I screamed to get over and help me. And it's like starting to open, and we were horrified and screaming to my mom downstairs, mom, 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 please, mama. And this, I mean, one more hit, it was about to open, and she came running up the stairs screaming, and this thing stopped, and she came in, and she opened the door. And she said, what are you guys doing? Blah, blah, blah. We had tears streaming down our face. Something was trying to get into the bed. He whooped our ass. She thought we were lying to her.
What was it?
We don't know. It had to be like a ghost or something. We never knew, and nothing ever happened again. We never heard or something, but there was something invisible banging on the door, trying to come in. And I mean, it was freaky. And like I said, that was it. That was one event all my life that ever happened in that house. And then
before you continue, Matt, I wanted to ask you, what do you remember, or try to remember what you and your brother were doing before that all happened?
We were playing with Hot Wheels cars on my mom and dad's bed.
Okay. Was there anything else going on around the house? Was there any arguments? Was there something going on outside? Was it nighttime?
It was the summertime. There were 5 kids in my family. So there are 3 older siblings. They were all let me see. No, it was the summer. They were gone. So my 3 older siblings were there's a much different age. So the closest to me was my one sister. It was like 6 years difference. So she's the youngest to me. So they were out doing whatever. And then there's those 3. And then me and my younger brother is only a year difference. So we were so separated. We just were playing. They were gone. My dad was at work. My mom was downstairs cooking. And that happened. And it was just beyond strange. And you know, like I said, when the first bang happened, we thought it was my mother, like she was knocking on the door, and it wasn't like hard. It was just like, and I opened the door, and all of the doors were all closed. The only door that was open was the bathroom door. Every other door was closed. The attic door was closed. Closed it, and as soon as I turned around, bam, 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 and it was like, holy shit. And you know, I was holding the door, and I was I was a kid. I was like 6 years old. And I screamed to my brother Greg, "Get over here, hold it." And we're holding the door. I mean, scream. He was horrified. We're crying, streams coming down our face. We didn't know what was going on. And I remember it at the last hard one it hit, that it got hit so hard we both went back before we were able to put our weight into it and close the door. That opened enough that I saw the door open and there was nothing out there. Nothing.
See, so I was asking that also because to find out what you were doing. Now, again, given the fact that you were a child or there were kids there, especially that young,
Mm-hmm.
It may have not been something else. It could have also been your manifestation to create something. And you said that it started off as a light knock.
Mm-hmm.
It's something to get your attention. And as you started getting into that fear factor, it got stronger.
Oh, yeah.
The more you and your brother got scared and whoever else, it got really strong and everything. So, I mean, obviously we're not going to solve, this isn't no Scooby-Doo deal and everything, but
Right.
But yeah, I mean, sometimes people think that it's something else, but it could just be you guys, without thinking, because as the younger you are, the more connected you are to your, let's just call it your abilities, your light abilities and things like that. So who knows what you were doing that you just probably didn't realize what was creating, what was being brought to physical form and whatnot. So but I'm glad you're safe.
Very possible. Yeah. And BJ, no, she never believed us. And the older we got, honestly, I did not remember or think to even remember that until just like within the last year and a half when I started doing interviews again. I remembered that. So yeah, no, and unfortunately my mom and dad are gone. And Caesar, I will, you talked about NDEs. I would love to get in touch with you after this and tell you about my NDE that I had in April of 2022. But sticking to this real quick, one of the most like in media for me that really got me into cryptids and stuff was this book right here. Bigfoot and Nessie. This is old. I got this at the book fair when I was in grade school at St. Edward's Junior High. When I was in like seventh or sixth grade or something. So that one there. So for me, that's where it is. I wanted to tell everybody I got to get going. Rye, congratulations, brother, man. I love you. I'm so happy for you. Great things in store, Brad. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Nice
Caesar, it's a pleasure meeting you, brother. I absolutely want to definitely, meet, talk more with you guys.
We'll talk. I think Rye, if you can do us the favor and connect us,
not a problem. Not a problem.
Thanks for having me on.
All right.
Brother.
Thanks so much, Matt. And then make sure everybody in the chat or viewers, listeners, make sure you check out Matt's channel, Planet 412. I don't think he needs my flourish here at the end because Matt is doing so well with his channel anyhow.
Thank you. Everybody, it was a pleasure seeing you. Thank you very much. Have a good night, guys.
All right. Oh, that was Matt from Planet 412. Thanks, Matt, for showing up. And I'm going to continue this. So myself, what got me into this cryptid space was definitely, there used to be a book that we had. It was kind of like this book of a, what are they called? They were part of an encyclopedia set, and these ones were called Childcraft books, and this was in the 80s. And there was one that had mysteries in it, and I don't know what the name of that specific book was. It might have been book 2, where it was like stories and fables, but it had stories about like the Loch Ness Monster, and it had stories about all these mysteries. So the Loch Ness Monster was my kind of real thing, that my real one that really brought me in. It was never Bigfoot, actually. It was always Loch Ness, and the Bermuda Triangle. Loch Ness and the Bermuda Triangle were my biggest thing. So it was that book. And then from there was a couple TV shows. One, I was never a fan of horror, but the Twilight Zone. I would watch the Twilight Zone. then Ripley's Believe It or Not, and lastly, Unsolved Mysteries.
Dude, you got them all. Yeah.
Yes, same with Unsolved Mysteries. We always waited for the UFO episodes. We're always
Those
excited
were the
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the UFO or the ghost or the missing people. You know, the murder ones weren't really the thing that I was there for, but the other ones with Robert Stack, that was his name. Robert Stack was the show host, and that had me for sure.
Right.
So
do you know there's the new Twilight Zone 2024?
No.
Dude, you guys you know the comedians Key and Peele?
I've heard of it.
Okay, well, the comedians Key and Peele, one of them is the director. He's the guy that took over. They used to be writers for the Chappelle show, for Dave Chappelle. But anyways, he's the creator of the new Twilight Zone for 2024. The series, the season is, I mean, like really good. Like you should check it out.
Okay. I think I'm going to have to. I definitely think I'm going to have to.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to share. So some people were asking what those books were. So I'm going to share those books. I actually have that ready here. So because I actually had to look it up because I'm like, I don't know what these ones are called. So this one is vintage 1980s Childcraft book set, 1981 set Childcraft. This was my thing here. This was my. And I swear there was one on mysteries and stuff like that, but I see one says stories and fables, and I remember it was a green color, so maybe it was this one. But yeah, this was it.
It was the Mandela effect. Oh,
maybe it was. For some reason, I always thought it was like around book number 7 is what that book was, and it was green, so it could be stories and fables. I don't know. Yeah,
I would stick to your memory. Stick to your memory, right? I think something changed there.
right, because the stories and fables. I think that literally was about stories and fables. It wasn't about these mysteries and everything else. So, yeah. So those were my thing. And then Brad and I know you were saying that you had some experiences when you were younger. Yeah, it wasn't just reading these books that got me into it. It was actually having these experiences as well. You know, my out of body experience when I was, how old was I? Like 9 years old. That was one big one. And that was where I officially got dubbed the weird kid, because it happened at school when I was running a race, which was crazy. Yeah. I overexerted myself, and I shot out of my head and was watching everybody, including myself, run down below. And I was about like 15, 20 feet above in the air.
Wow. So you were above looking down at yourself.
Yeah.
Continue doing what you're doing.
My body was continuing running. Like I saw everybody else at first. And when I saw myself, that's when I had a realization that I'm not in my body. And then it was like, boom, instantly back into my body.
That's interesting, because that brings me to that moment that we've all had when you're driving your vehicle and you just kind of zone out. And you go through lights and you turn and you get to wherever you get to, and then you wake up, so to speak, and you're like, dang, like that was dangerous, right? So imagine if the same scenario that happened to you, except for you were actually aware that you're looking. Yep. What if in those moments that you're driving, you space out, you actually do leave, go do something, your body's on autopilot because it knows, and your higher self isn't going to let you, kill yourself and everything. So it puts it on boop, boop, part, whatever the case is, and then it does its thing, and then it comes back, and then you're aware again. You weren't aware before, but you're aware again, and you're like, oh dang, where did I go?
I believe that is a complete possibility. Like I had an experience a couple of years ago when I was driving from the city I live in to the other city. It's about 2 hours away, and I swear I was off in La La Land, living a whole other life. Like my imagination was going crazy about me living in the hills in Peru, in the mountains of Peru. And like, I saw the place, I saw everything, and I'm driving on the highway, but man, I was living another life. It was crazy. And then, so going way back to you talking about people having like precog and these abilities and stuff like that, I wanted to bring up, and I brought this one up before, but I have proof of something though. So this was, I was driving back from El Paso to Chihuahua, Mexico, and I had told my wife that, because my wife sometimes doesn't believe me because I'm like, I knew this was going to happen, and she's like, well, you didn't tell me, so I don't believe you. She's like, you got to tell me when you have these ideas. So I was driving back from, like I said, from El Paso to Chihuahua, Mexico, and I said to her, I said, I got this vision in my mind that I was going to see a bird of prey that had been killed on the side of the road, and I could see its wing waving in the air like this. I could see it clear as day in my mind. So this was either me seeing the future or me being given a message of what was going to happen. And no word of a lie, about 20 minutes, maybe half hour at most, I see exactly what I told her. I see it exactly on the side of the road, and I'm like, that's it, I have to stop. So I went and I harvested the wings of this creature, and it was a barn owl. And for those who, just to give you this is the wing of the barn owl that I saw in my mind flying back and forth like this. It was
a real one.
This is it. This is what I harvested. This is it. Yes.
So wait. Let me make sure I understand. You had an out of body, and you foresaw this, and then you
in my mind, I could see this happening. I could see that up ahead, I'm going to see on the side of the road this waving of a wing of a bird of prey. I didn't know which one, but I could see it happening. And maybe that's just a guess, but it was very particular what it was. And but it wasn't. It was just like, this is what I'm going to see, and you need to. So I did. I harvested the wings, and then I tried to bury it and gave it, honorably, kind of tried to take care of the body as best as I could at that time. But yeah. So that is what I saw. And I specifically told my wife this time, I'm like, this is what's going to happen. And because I have a lot of times where I have a lot of intuition, things come to me, messages, and I don't say it. I don't tell anybody. And then they happen, and I'm like, yeah, I knew that was going to happen. And then my wife questions me all the time. She's like, yeah, but you didn't say it. That doesn't count.
Right. No, I totally believe you on that and everything. I know from what I understand from you, your frequencies definitely has been elevated for the past years with everything that you've learned and practiced and have witnessed. But also now that you're also or have been tuned in to these higher energies and everything, you also have access to potential timelines, so when I
understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, you have. So it's not like you're seeing a potential future based off of what's happening right now, but there's many different options to where that goes and everything. But the timeline that you are more energetically attracted to, that's the one that collapses itself, and then that's where you came into that. So that's interesting, dude. You you might as well be a time traveler.
So BJ Lapierre brought up that it's illegal to take these feathers, to harvest these feathers from these animals. And I understand from living ones, we don't ever want to do that. But why is that? Do you think, because in and I don't want to speak for all natives, but what I've learned is that, like an eagle feather is very powerful, owl feathers as well. Like bird of prey feathers are very powerful. They're used as like a tool. They're a very powerful tool. And now, is it illegal because it is a powerful tool? Is it because they want to limit you from actually having access to these tools as well? And don't get me wrong, I believe that we have the ability to do everything without these tools, but I think the tools really do help, so.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? But it's a powerful tool if you have the knowledge to apply to make it a powerful tool. Like without that knowledge, without that understanding that it isn't a powerful tool, to you it's just a wing of a bird.
Yeah.
But I guess to just kind of to try to keep digging, or trying to bury everything down, they're gonna make everything, these things illegal and things like that. So you don't even get close to it, So interesting though.
what I was going to say was, okay, so when you're talking about driving, actually, this brought up, and it's funny that you brought that up, because I actually brought up, I got a story ready about driving, because, and about different timelines as well. So I'm really glad that, because this is a great segue into it. So I'm going to talk about a drive home that happened in 2019. Okay, so I was driving home from the Okanagan, which is in British Columbia in Canada, and somewhere about 50 kilometers before or after a city called Golden, I had this intense experience. I was suddenly struck by a huge deja vu, but not just deja vu. It was tied to a dream, which is called deja rêve. Okay, and so and this dream that I had was sometime within the past year, and I haven't found that dream. I need to find that. So a dream I had all but forgotten until that moment. So in this dream, I had saw a small town just off a major highway. The first building at the entrance of the town was a warehouse. Oh, I guess I did actually. I didn't realize that I actually had put the dream in here. So in the dream, I saw a small town just off a major highway. The first building at the entrance of the town was like a warehouse, possibly used for storing road maintenance vehicles, like for cleaning highways, or serving as a mechanic's garage. It was one of those rounded type Quonset style buildings. The town itself was more of a small, isolated community, perhaps no more than about 100 people. And this was in my dream. But as I was driving along the highway, the deja vu lasted only for a few seconds, but its effect like stuck with me. And immediately after, I felt this overwhelming heaviness, as though my body was being weighed down, like I was driving through something so thick. As if I was driving through this entire experience, not just recalling to the dream, but living it. Now, the town, the road, the building, it all carried like this energy that felt so familiar to me. And now the reason why I talk about this is because as I was driving, it was as if this is exactly what I felt, as if the town never existed anymore. It blipped out of reality. And I know this sounds absolutely crazy, but as I was driving, I was like, that's where the town is supposed to be. It's supposed to be right there. That's exactly where it was. And it was like this intersection between this dream that I had and this knowing of this town. I'm like, that's where it's supposed to be. But right where I was looking was just completely covered in forest. There was nothing there anymore. But I swear to God that every time I've driven this road, and I've driven this road quite often, that town was always there. But now it was gone. Like when you talk like a Mandela effect or a timeline, different timeline, that town never existed in this timeline. And I swear on everything that it felt like that was supposed to be there. That town was there. That's where it's supposed to be. It was just a strong feeling towards it and this dream all at the same time. And like I said, when I was driving, it was just like, bam, that's where it should be. And as I'm driving, this heaviness came all over me. And it sounds weird when I say heaviness. It was as if like the like gravity was imposing, like it just got so heavy, and it was just kind of like you felt like this, like you're getting pushed down, not crushed, but just pushed down like this. I don't know how to explain it exactly, but that's the best way. This with DSETI, this interview that I had with this gentleman from DSETI here just recently, he talked about driving through honey, and I would say that might be something similar to what I felt as well. Like, it was just this heavy feeling of like that.
That's amazing, first of all. And when you talk about, I connected with the fact that you said you had this knowing. Okay. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like it could be, or you felt it. So what if it wasn't, forget timeline. What if it wasn't in this reality? What if it was in a different reality? Yeah. A different dimension, right? Because again, don't forget, we talked about this a lot, that we're multi-dimensional beings, right? So there's this reality is happening an infinite amount of times in different ways. Okay. So maybe you were in a different dimensional plane, everything was the same, and that town or that city was there. and somehow you tapped in there and you were there for a while. And for whatever reason, later on, you shifted upward, downward, side, left to right, or something, but to a dimensional plane where that town is no longer here for whatever reason that may be. But that it's not that the town left, it's you left.
I agree completely. I that's exactly how I feel. I feel like it's not like the town disappeared. I moved over. I shifted over into a reality. And that's what I think like Mandela effects are, is we've moved over, we shifted, and we've known a different past, a different history, but it no longer exists in the one that we moved in. Whether we've gone up or we've gone down or we've gone left or right, it still exists. That town still exists.
Still there.
And I would say technically I still exist in that town as well, but my consciousness, my prime consciousness is here with me now.
Right, because we right now, you currently right now are designed, even though spiritually you're a multidimensional being, we know that, but physically this body is designed for you to focus on one timeline, one situation, you know? So that, and it's intentional.
Yeah.
It's intentional. Before you continue with that, I want to tie in something that I tell
please go
a
ahead.
lot of, what's that?
I said, please go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was saying that something that I tell a lot of folks, it's kind of like a mantra of mine and everything, something that really just resonate with me a lot. And one of my reasons why I'm also continue doing my podcast is I want to help people remember who they truly are. And what ties into that statement is that when people say, why are we here? Right? My understanding of that is that we are here to experience what we are not. Think about that. We are omnipotent beings. In order to get the full understanding of what we are, we got to pause from being omnipotent and come here and experience what we're not. We can die here. We can suffer. We can get hurt. Everything that makes us the opposite of immortal, so to speak. So there was a reason why I was saying that, but the point is that
I think what you're saying was that we are existing in all these timelines trying to experience everything, but our prime consciousness is, because we can only actually see one conscious. Yes. Like we have to be conscious in one of them, so everything else is kind of happening where you're driving, but you're not there, you know. Right. In that time, possibly we're in that another consciousness. And I forgot, like, so my dreams have opened doors in me to talk about when we're talking about prime consciousness, but I actually talk a lot about prime timeline. The prime timeline in my dreams have done that for me. They have let me in on the prime timeline many times, and I have a lot of dreams where I dream about the prime timeline. And I remember Carol was talking earlier about dreams and being in other dimensions. I totally believe all that. That is exactly what is happening.
I've never heard of that. What's I'm sure these folks probably have heard that, but what do you mean? What do you mean by prime timeline? What's that? What does that mean to you?
Well, it's exactly what we're just talking about. It's just giving it a different name. Instead of your prime consciousness, you know, being conscious in this is what it is. This is the prime timeline. All those other dimensions, all those other realities are all happening, but because our consciousness is in this one, this is my prime timeline, right? So this is the one that is existing now. That is the most important one. At least to me, it's the most important one. Right. So yeah, and whenever we make a decision, you know, do I go left or do I go right here? And I go right. That's because I'm sticking with the prime timeline. But we can jump off, and I want to be. So I'm just kind of remembering this because I wrote a big long thing on this one, that we can divert off the prime timeline. So your consciousness can move off, and you could go into one of these sub timelines, but the prime still exists. And if you're off in another one, you know, you're existing parallel with it. But you should actually make sure you try to get back over to the prime timeline. And I should actually, this is I definitely need to do an episode on the prime timeline, and this is, I've used my dreams to actually access this, and to give me the information on it. It wasn't like I just made this up. No, this is the information that was being given to me through my dreams. And this all ties in with that last interview I just did with D-Seti with Daniel. It really is. It's great having these conversations, because then it reopens these doors. These doors were closed, and it's like, oh yeah, I have done this research. I have done this. Well, I should pull that back up, dust the dust off of it, and go deep into it again.
Right. Let me ask you, when you say prime timeline, is that the same as base reality to you?
Okay, depends on what you mean by base reality, but I would say, like, the prime timeline for me is, I would say, base reality. I think I know what you're talking about. That this is this is the anchor. Like, this is the anchor.
Yeah. Let me clarify what I'm saying then.
Yeah.
I'm learning this new thing that you're talking about, prime timeline, and I get it. I go with base reality. Base reality is what I would call home, right? Meaning, like, this reality that we're in right now, this is an experience. And when I say simulation, I don't mean like computer simulation. I mean like divine simulation. Okay, this is a different experience that we're having. But base reality is whenever we die and our body goes somewhere. That's where I'm talking about. It goes back home to base reality, and then from there we decide what other experience we want to have. Okay, so this is just one of infinite experiences that we're having. This is a unique one, because in other realities, to my understanding, in other experiences, we don't forget. We remember everything that we actually are, and then have that experience. This is the only one of its kind that we come here to experience something, but we forget who we truly are. That's all I want to say on that.
Okay, that's it. That is interesting. Okay, so do you mind if I talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about a dream that I had that actually was one of my and I don't like calling it downloads. I really don't like calling it downloads, but it was like a message that I was given about all of this. And let me just open it up here. Okay. So it was November 18th, 2015. It was, and I have like subheadings for each of my dreams. This one I did message, timelines, prime timeline. So this dream was more like learning a lesson about the prime timeline. On May 25th, 2016, so this is in the future, I had another dream that showed me what would happen if someone affected the prime timeline. So the prime timeline is the timeline that we are currently consciously living in right now. Time travel is real, and you or I can go back to points in your own lives and change things, but only small, subtle changes are allowed. With those changes being small, the prime timeline will continue on, and when you return to the present time, everything will be the same. So this includes time travel as well. But if we were to go back and make numerous changes at one specific point, or make a very large change, then the prime timeline will divert off of the path it was on and take an alternate course. This is really bad. And if you return to the current time, you will be in the alternate prime timeline, not the one that you originally came from, where things have been disrupted from the change. A great analogy would be a river. The river is the prime timeline. Now, if you change something small upstream, which could be the equivalent of throwing a rock into the river, nothing really changes. The rock will land in the water, perhaps be pulled a little bit by the current, but it will settle at the bottom and the river will continue to flow. The surface of the river remaining virtually the same downstream. Absolutely nothing changes. But if you put a large boulder or a huge quantity of rocks into the river, this will change the flow of the river, diverting it into a new course, and what was downstream before has now just dried up and does not exist as part of the river anymore. A new direction or alternative path has been made now, and it could become very rough as it cuts through a new path. As for the prime timeline, any choice that we've made continues along this path, but every other choice we don't make opens up alternative realities, as if we had made that choice. So that was kind of a little breakdown that I got from a dream in 2016. So that was a little bit about that. So time travel, and when I talk about time travel, I refer to dreams as our time travel. Okay. So I believe that we have the ability to travel within our dreams into different timelines, different realities, and into our own timeline and move back or forward and make changes. And I've done this in my dreams where I have time traveled to someplace in the past and realize that I'm in my own timeline, and I have to be careful of what I do. So it's almost lucid, but it's not. Like I'm not in control, but I'm aware. So I'm aware, and I make sure that I don't change things, because if I change an outcome large enough, that it's going to change what happens in the future. Then, like it'll really greatly affect everything in the future.
Oh wow! You're actually interacting with it.
Yes. Yeah. I've interacted with people. I've never actually, I've never asked the people now that do you recall ever talking to some person? Like there was one timeline where, one dream where I traveled into the past, when my friends were all around. My friends went to a different school, and I went to that school as myself at this age. And I was like, there was one of the teachers was SAing the children, right? And I needed to try to stop that, but I had to be very careful in how I was doing it, not to make too much of a change to everything on that one. So that was part of it. And then I did talk to one of my friends, and I was like, you'll know me in the future. It was along that line.
But let me ask you this though.
Yeah.
When you are traveling through the timeline, do you think that your actions, like let's say like the butterfly effect, do you think you're actually affecting everybody else, like me, Brad, everybody else on the chat?
It all depends. So it depends to what degree, and I shouldn't be able to if I do a big enough change, yes, I can. Okay. But if I'm doing little subtle nuances, it's not going to change anything. We're still going to be where we are here. We're still nothing is going to change. Like if I go back and I kind of make some subtle little changes, but the point that when I try to make a large change, that, oh my God. So I'm having a bit of a eureka moment. So the one time that I did ayahuasca, I had I traveled where I tried changing a river. I tried changing the actual Nile, and in my ayahuasca journey, and it made me extremely sick. It was extremely difficult to try to change the course of a river. So exactly like I was just talking, this is I'm having this epiphany. And so to make those changes, it's very, very difficult. And I think it comes at a great cost to the person making those changes. Almost like you're saying, like, butterfly effect. Like if I do recall, he would go through didn't he go through some physical changes? Like, wasn't he being affected, or was that because he was hurting himself or damaging himself?
I think he was getting headaches or something like that. But it's okay. And again, we're just conversating here and everything.
Yes.
So
I'm not saying I know anything. This is just how I feel.
We're just talking and everything. So I don't think I disagree on the idea that whatever you change affects anybody else, because see, wherever you go and whatever you do, you're affecting whatever reality tunnel, let's just call it that reality tunnel that belongs to you. So that Nile in whatever timeline, whatever era, that's your tunnel. See, my tunnel, Brad's tunnel, everyone else's tunnel is separate. If you do change something, okay, then you change it in a version that only you are aware of the change, because it's your reality tunnel, but again, what do we know, right?
No, and I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not saying that is I do agree that we are affecting our own personal reality, but it does affect those people around us. But is that the prime you? Possibly not. No, I'm interacting with another version. Like I think we can have crossovers with our primes, but
We can,
yeah. But this can go really deep. This can go really, really deep. So yeah.
No, I do. One of my understandings about when you leave the body is that, again, when I use the term home, the place outside of your body, even if you like are in your room right now and then you just leave your body and everything, that new foundation, that other world is more physical than this one. Think about that statement there. Why would this ghost plane, if you just want to call it something, be more physical than this one? Well, it's to a point that Brad said earlier about the light spectrum, right? I think I heard Brad talking about the fact that, in our physical body, we're limited, right? What was it, the 0.0035% of the light spectrum? So everything that we are interacting with right now is only 0.0035 of the light spectrum. That's crazy. And that's our physical reality. So with that statement being said, when you leave your body, you are no longer limited to that 0.0035. You now have full access to the entire light spectrum because you are light. So with that being said, that would mean that other reality would be more physical in all aspects than this current one, if that makes sense to anybody.
It does.
So can you interact with it? Hell yeah, you can interact with it. Can you manipulate it? Can you change it? Yes, because you are no longer limited to this. You are now in your God mode body. Let's just call it that.
Cool. I like it. That's it's an interesting take, and I think we all have some great takes on this, and piecing it together is kind of what we're trying to do. A little bit of this and a little bit of that, and putting it all together to try to getting these answers. To continue on.
Sorry, I just saw Paula Hawk asked, "Why are we in this limited reality?" That's a great question. If I can answer that from my understanding. So I mentioned earlier, I don't know if Paula, if you were on, but I mentioned that we are here to experience what we are not. Okay. So I mentioned earlier in that statement that we are omnipotent beings, okay, in our light form, right? So we came here to get the full circle, the full understanding of what we are. We have to also experience what we're not. Okay. And then live this linear life. And learn what it's like to suffer, to cry, to love, to be manipulated, all these different things, to die. So think about it this way. If you want to visualize it, before you were a physical being, you were this energy light body. You made a choice to come here and have this life experience. To my understanding, you chose your mom, your dad, your brother, your friends. You chose all of that. You said, this is what I'm going to experience. Kind of like when you put on a video game, you know what game you're going to play, what character you're going to be, who you're going to be with, all that stuff. So put that here. So you came here to live, experience this to whatever age that this body, lasts, and then game over. Then you go back. You take off the headset, so to speak, and you take what you've learned back into your to your light body.
And if I can take that a step further, is this limited reality, I think, is being imposed. A little bit of it is being imposed on us. We are being limited by outside forces. And by that, I mean, like you were saying that, like there's chemicals in the air and everything like that. I believe that, if we look at cars are governed. They have a governor on them, so you can't go past a certain speed limit. I believe that we are being governed as well. And Brad had brought up in the past with me that, we are our vision has been limited, so we only see like, less than 1% of the actual light spectrum. But it could be also to protect us, because if we actually saw everything going on around us, we could go insane. It could be that we're seeing these actual demons and everything else like that. So we could be being governed by God, so that to protect our sanity. But I also believe we're being governed by outside negative forces that are trying to restrict us from knowing our true potential as well.
We could be limited to protect us from going insane. But I would add to that, like I said, we chose to be here to experience this. So we're gonna get to Brad here. Let me finish this statement here. But so we chose to have this experience. So I lost my train of thought, and that's okay. Brad, what's up, buddy? What's on your mind?
No, well, you guys are doing great, man. I'm just letting you talk. I'm trying. I talk a lot when I go on other shows, so I'm trying to be more respectful and let other people talk. So I've been told, on my own show, I talk too much too. So I'm trying to let.
Yeah, but your neighbor told you need to talk more though too, as well. So you got that.
I'm trying to make sure that everybody gets their say in. I don't think you guys are wrong,
buddy.
So I had that. So I told you about that prime timeline where I had that dream. It was kind of like a message more of what's going on. And then I said there was also I had another dream in the future on May 25th, 2016 about the prime timeline. And so this dream was about time travel, alternate reality, and prime timeline. So I'm going to talk about this dream, and we can discuss it further. So I'm going to describe the dream and what happened. So I was with some of my friends, Paula and Atria. Somehow we traveled back in time by 4 years. I think we were in a car, but it wasn't as if the car was a time machine. We had found either accidentally or on purposely an anomaly that had been created, like a black hole or a wormhole. Someone had entered maybe minutes ahead of us, which would mean that they would have arrived possibly decades, if not centuries before us. And they made some big changes to the timeline. So when we arrived into this new timeline, it deviated off the prime timeline course and had altered so many things. One thing right away was that my friend Atria ceased to exist. She just faded from my thoughts and memories, and I didn't realize anything had happened. Paula left and was drawn to her past self, who was residing in a basement suite in a different city. I too was drawn to myself. It's kind of strange that we're being drawn to our other self. So I was being drawn to my other self, and I found my alternate self in a pub with my ex-wife. We were still together, and I could see that she was different. She didn't have these anger issues, and she looked at peace and happy. She looked peaceful and happy. I then followed my alternate self and her back to my parents' house, which was very different from what my parents lived in previously. We were in a great room, possibly in the basement, sitting in the bottom set of short stairs that led up the landing. The landing, there was another two sets of stairs. Okay, I'm describing stairs a little bit, which led into the bedrooms. I'm unsure if I was living with them or we had just spent the night. It felt like Christmas, but it was late spring or early summer, so possibly Easter. Also, I was an only child. My sisters, Trisha, and my oldest sister, Nicole, did not exist. They did exist, but they weren't born to my parents. I had lost a lot of weight, and my hair was dirty blonde and spiky. My ex had dyed her hair silver, and I also knew that she'd never gotten together previously with her first husband, which meant she had never had her daughter. We were happy together, but I, being from the prime timeline, knew that I had already left her and was in the process of divorcing her, which would also lead me to meeting my current wife and having my daughter. I tried convincing my alter self to break it off with her and divorce her. I also realized that in this prime timeline, my friend Paula and I never met. So I was forgetting her and she was forgetting me. We were drifting apart. I was trying to make a point of us meeting so we would never forget each other, but either she didn't want to or didn't care or had already forgotten me. So that was me describing this alternate timeline that someone had gone into the past, had completely changed it, and it did actually affect me. And I'm not saying that is the truth. It could be different, but that was what my dream had showed me, that if someone can go back and affect it, they can greatly affect it and cause this, one person to completely disappear, and then, everything else to completely change. So it's really I think it's really interesting that there is a possibility that someone can change the past. And maybe that is also another reason why we have Mandela effect. Maybe we are having a possible memory, but if I'm saying that we're forgetting stuff, then that wouldn't happen. But who knows? Who knows? I find it interesting.
It goes so many different branches. It goes all kinds of way. And I don't think we are causing the Mandela effects. I would just take a roll the dice and just think that the timelines are trying to correct themselves the best that they can, and this is just something. It's like like antibodies, right? It's like it's just trying to heal itself, trying to figure out. We're splitting so many different ways. We got like 8.5 billion people on the planet. So, those people have infinite thoughts. So multiply that times 8.5. And I mean, the number is just wild and everything stuff. So I think reality itself in all levels is trying to figure out, what to do. So
I agree. And I agree with Suji. You can learn more in one hard lifetime than you can in 1,000 easy lifetimes. That's how we learn our lessons, by making those mistakes, not by following or by going against the grain and not following the crowds. That's something I think a lot of us have done and learned, especially us in this community, in the conspiracy or, enlightenment or everything, we are not following the mainstream narrative. We're not following the mainstream stories. We are choosing our own paths. And it's difficult. It's really difficult because it's easier. It kind of goes back to what's his name, Cypher from the Matrix, where he just wants to be plugged back in. I just don't want none of this. I don't want this. I just want to have a steak and that's it, and just live an easy life. But it's not an easy. Yeah, complacency technically is easy. It's an easy life. It's easy just to turn on the evening news and not do anything, and just, well, you're doing stuff, but you're doing what everybody else wants you to do, and you're not questioning the narrative. You're not questioning the news. You're not questioning life. You're not questioning anything and everything. And we should always be asking questions. We should never stop asking questions. If you're allowing someone, and this kind of goes with you, Caesar, when you're saying we should always be looking into ourselves and talking with ourselves instead of seeking outside and asking, like looking for help from other people. I think looking for help for other people is okay to a degree, for them to maybe give you a new direction, but never stay a student of a person, never ever be the student of the same person all the time, because that's all you'll be. You'll always be a student. You'll never be a master yourself.
Yeah, I'm not against having conversation with people. I'm just saying, we don't need to rely on, depending. The more we give away our power, the less we, forget. I mean, the less we remember who we are, it's when a child is born, let's say between 1 and 4, before they go to kindergarten or something like that, no one's telling them anything. They don't really understand much of anything. They are just experiencing life. No one can tell them that they walk on a counter and jump off and they're going to get hurt or touch a fire or anything like that, and then once we end up, man, I'll tell you what, it's late because I just lost my train of thought. I was going somewhere with that, but whatever. But anyways, yeah.
It is getting late. I know my one of my other friends is asking to come on here. He's going to try to come on one more time, but I don't want to keep you. If you guys want to hang out, please do. I can keep going for a little bit more, maybe a half an hour, but then at a half an hour, then I'm going to call it an evening. So for those who don't know, this is Blake from Mountain Man Explore the Truth, a good friend of mine, but it looks like he's having trouble loading. Oh, there he is. Blake is in his car studio. How you doing, Blake?
He's got a car studio.
It's working.
It's working. Yes, yes.
How you doing?
Good. Yes, Blake's internet has been absolutely horrendous lately. So Blake has had some bad internet, bad issues. So he's trying to get set up. But for those who don't know Blake is a good friend of mine as well. We met a while back when we both.
Hell, man. It's hell.
Yeah, we both started. That's when I started. Oh, and there goes Brad. Oh.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead too, Ryan. Everything here, but again, thank you for the opportunity, Ryan. I really appreciate it. Everybody else, thanks a lot. Just a cheesy little plug in.
Please
find me Beyond the Frequency 369, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Spreaker, things like that. And if you're interested, one of my last solo, it's about 20-minute episode. I tell you what is coming. So if you're interested in about what is coming, check it out. It's a good one. All right. Thanks again, Rye.
No problem. Yeah. Thanks, brother. You take care. All right, everyone. So that was Brad and Caesar, and I'm so glad that they came on. And we're gonna have Blake on for a little bit if you can, if his internet is holding out for just a little bit more. So, Blake, how you doing, buddy? So how you doing, Blake? Was it working for you?
All right.
I think we got a bit of a delay. I hope hopefully it. Are you there, Blake?
I figure I'd come by and say congratulations, man. You know what? You hit a year doing your Codega here, man. That's awesome.
I appreciate that. Brother. Yeah, you've been a great supporter, and likewise, I love supporting you as well. You have a great show. I know you. Yeah,
is it picking up or no?
There is some big
it's always
delays
a show for me, man, with this delay.
Yeah, there is a big delay. So if this delay keeps going, unfortunately, I don't think it's going to work out tonight, Blake. Yeah. So that we're looking at about a 20.
At least I came by to say hello to you, man. I'm happy to hear your show's doing great. Looks like you got a great audience and guests coming on your show. I think it's awesome, dude.
I thoroughly appreciate that, Blake. Yeah, it's about a 20-second delay. I'm sorry, Blake. I don't think it's going to work. I don't know what's going on here, but I want to say thank you for coming out, and I think we're going to call it an evening anyhow. I know you really tried, and I appreciate that. But why don't you give a shout out for your show before
Probably
we
right,
call it
man.
a night?
I figured I'd try to get in here and say hello to you, man. It's definitely delaying a bit.
And I think and it just locked up there. So everybody, Blake has a great show called Mountain Man Explore the Truth. I highly recommend going to check it out. My friends there, Caesar and Brad, are fantastic. Brad never got to say goodbye there. I think he was getting a little tired, but so I want to say thank you to everyone for coming out tonight. And
nope, doesn't say it's working.
No,
well, hey,
it's
Ryan,
not.
Apologize, man. I warned you. The Wi-Fi is terrible.
It is. That's all right. Blake. I'm just gonna pop you off for right now. So everyone, I want to say thank you so much for showing up tonight. Before I head out, does anybody in the audience have any questions? I'm going to field any and all questions right now. So if you have any questions about me, about any of the show, or any of the guests I have, please do. So I'm just going to message Blake and tell him, sorry, man. Great show, thoughts and inspirations. Thank all of you. Yeah. I appreciate that. And so, like I said, if anybody has any questions, now's the time. Let's open it up. As for me, I have a interview that I keep talking about this DSETI, about Daniel from DSETI. and he is a that show is going to be kind of, I'm going to do a couple shows with it as well. And I'm going to do an episode specifically where I'm going to be talking about my one dream, which was like an adventure. It's like a movie. And I've kind of touched on it a couple of times, but I've never gone into full detail. I'm going to do that. And what's your religious views? That's a loaded question. But hey, I did say everything is open. So my religious views are this. I was born and raised Catholic. I moved away from that. I kind of started searching. I ended up going into the New Age. And then from there, I ended up going into a, like I kind of left. And when COVID came around, I kind of went back into the Christian motif. You know, I was kind of staying away from the Catholic, but I went more into Christian. But I still kind of stay away from the organized religion. And I follow the Christian, more the Bible, but the church itself kind of has turned me off, if that means anything. So what's in line for the rest of 2025? Any conferences that you might go to? I would love to go to conferences. So I would love to, but for those who don't know, I'm in Mexico. So for me to get to the States, it's quite expensive, you know, and unfortunately, the podcast is not paying all the bills yet. And to pay those bills, actually, if you're interested, you know, I got merch, I'm selling merch and whatnot, but some of the shows that are coming up, you know, I've got some big hitters coming up. Lyle Blackburn is one of them. For those who don't know who Lyle Blackburn is, Lyle is well, I'll just leave it at that. There's DeSetti, Daniel from DeSetti. I got a lot of experiencers coming on. Yeah, so I do have a lot of big names coming on as well. And that doesn't mean that I'm not like interviewing still the people who've had their experiences. I'm definitely going after people who've had experiences as well, because that is the backbone of this. Now, I do have one last person that's coming on fairly soon. Maybe some of you guys know him, okay? And which is, does anybody know Freddie Silva? So anybody know Freddie Silva? Let's see if that comes up in the comments. Freddie Silva, because if you do know, if you watch Gaia or anything like that, then that would be, you would know Freddie Silva. And I'm just gonna see Blake pop back on. I'm gonna see if he comes back on. Blake, can you hear me now? How's your connection now? Oh, and it just locked up again. Sorry, Blake. I'm going to put you down so we don't, not put you down, but just put you back out, okay? Because it's a very poor connection. I feel bad because I really wanted you on, Blake, and we'll make this work here in the future. When your internet comes back on, I'll definitely have you on here in the future. So Freddie Silva talks a lot about our ancient history, the metaphysical connections with it, our spiritual connections with it, but he talks about a lot of our lost ancient history. So these are some of the guests that I'm having coming on. Lyle Blackburn interview is coming on soon. Anybody know Sean Hibbler? I had him on the previous my previous show, which was the Lost Frequency podcast. Sean Hibbler is coming back on. His episode drops next week. It is all about what do you think? What do you think it's going to be about? So it's not about flat Earth, because that is what was his big main wheelhouse, but it's about lost tech of the old world, like airships and architecture and everything else. Because I think airships were really, really fascinating. You know, the Zeppelins, really, really fascinating. So he goes into more detail about that. And if you're interested with him, and if you're interested in that, then you'll like that. Got a lot of things coming on, guys. So anybody else have any other questions here before we call it a night? And if you do, I don't mind sticking around. I can stick around for another half an hour here. Let's see. What other questions do we have? So those are some of the things I have in the future that's going on. What else? So something else I want to get further into. I really would like if you guys had any glitches in the Matrix stories. Those stories, kind of like what I was saying about driving and being I swear to God that town existed, but it never did, and it intersected with my dream. Like that actually happened. Yeah, sorry, Blake. It just wasn't working, buddy. Next time. I know we tried doing that other episode previously, and it didn't really work either. Get that internet fixed, and we'll have you on here. Okay. Question, Rye. Yeah. So Grandizer has lots of questions. Question, Rye. Can you get Brent Thomas of Paranormal Portal to be interviewed on your stream? Or sure, let me reach out to him. So you know what, Grandizer, send me an email with that information of him, okay? Because it's difficult for me to write all this stuff down. Send me an email. Say, hey, you should have him on or try getting on his show. Of course. So Codex of Curiosities at gmail.com. Send that one in there. Was on with you. So I thought Matt Emch was on with you tonight, right? Or you missed him, Suji. You missed Matt. He was on for the first 2 hours. And I like to have my my listeners and viewers on as well. So BJ Lapierre has her time slot booked for an interview coming up as well. So that is something that's coming up. Brent Thomas would be cool. Excellent. Get on the Blondes and Booze. Yeah, I've been on the Blondes and Booze once before, and I would love to go back on again. You know, I got some new experiences. I think that would be great. Do you think you get Josh Turner on too? I tried talking to Josh before, and he's difficult to organize and to get to come on. And so we had what was it? Supernatural Town Hall Sessions. We had Josh on before, and it was good. It was good. So I would definitely like to get Josh back on because I want him to tell his Dogman experience, because he's got a lot of things to talk about. Josh has a little bit of a photographic memory, so he can talk about just about anything. But I'd like to keep him on track to talk about that. Yes. So what else? Does anybody else have any other questions? Now, so we did ask how I got started on this. You know what? I'll go into a little bit of detail about myself if you guys want to know. So myself, you know, I'm 48 years old. I feel like I'm like 30, 33. And so I started, I think I told you guys, I've told a lot of my supernatural paranormal stories, but my life itself, you know, I grew up in Canada, in rural Canada. I grew up on a kind of like a small farm. I don't want to call it a farm. We had horses, we had some chickens and some pheasants, and, you know, dogs, cats, and rabbit as well. So that's where I grew up. I grew up on an acreage all my life, and on a little farm. Went to school, and I ended up following the footsteps of my father, becoming a plumber. But before that, and here's a key thing, actually, which I find interesting, that a lot of my big life things I've done in my life have been about water. So prior to that, I was a swimming instructor and a lifeguard. So there's water aspect. And then I thought, like, well, I can't make a career out of this, so maybe I should follow suit with my father. So I ended up becoming a plumber. And I know that seems to be kind of funny, but there's also a lot of like plumbers in the paranormal world. So that's what I use that for. So, so that's where I went there. I ended up I traveled around the world by myself for a year, backpacking around the world. While doing that, I ended up taking a lot of scuba diving courses, ended up becoming a rescue scuba diver. So again, there's some big tie-ins with water. I ended up having my own plumbing business. I hurt my knee really bad. I ended up getting a staph infection in my knee. And I made a deal with myself that if I ever got injured badly doing this, that I would walk away from it. And that was it, because I'd seen what being in the trade really ages them fast. And so I said, that's it. So at that point, I walked away, and universe provided. I was offered a job as a salesman for selling the stuff that I installed. So I was selling boilers and solar heating panels and everything of the sorts. And from there, I left that job to move to Mexico with my girlfriend at the time. And we lived in Mexico for 3 years. And in that time, we ended up getting married and having my daughter. We moved back to Canada. I ended up still working in the same type of business of selling those kind of products that I was talking about. And then from there, we moved back to Mexico, where I am now. And I started tutoring English and doing voice acting and video editing on the side. And one thing led to another, and I've always wanted to start a podcast. And I met Tom Franklin, and we started a podcast together called the Lost Frequency Podcast. And I had picked that name years in advance. I love that name, but unfortunately, it didn't work out between us. We had different ways we wanted to do things, and so I ended that. And like I said, it was a year ago today that I dropped my first interview with Matt Emch on February 22nd last year. That is when I started I started the Codex of Curiosities a little bit earlier, but that was my first actual interview. So that is that. Now, we had some questions. I missed a bunch of questions, so let's go here. Now, Rye, thank you for your coverage of the Mexican vampire cult. Yes, that was through Blaze. Blaze was fantastic with that. He did great. And I know you asked earlier, am I going to do any more cults? If it comes up, 100%. If there's any more people who want to talk about cults, I will definitely be doing that. So that was it. Are you going to cover any other cults in 2025? I would like to. I did touch on Scientology in an interview where it was what is it? UFO at the Devil's Millhopper, or Devil Millhopper, I believe it was. That gentleman was in Scientology, and he's like, I can't go into too much detail about it because Scientology is a very powerful, cult. And so he talked a little bit about it, which was interesting. It was interesting to hear his side. So that was really, really interesting. Now, yeah, Suji, I preferred people who speak about their own experiences. I do like having people speak about their own experiences. I think that's a powerful thing. I also do still like to have the researchers on who can give more backbone on this one. Do you have any books published? I don't. I started writing a book when I first moved down to Mexico, actually, and I was going to make it a fiction, nonfiction, a crossover. And it was actually all about all my dreams in my life. So it has like truth and I don't want to say non-truth because it's all true to me, but I was going to loosely base it on my life, but have it that I'm living a life in these other realities. When I go to sleep, I jump over into these other dreams and I jump over into these other timelines because I have been documenting my dreams, by 20, even before. I have some from before that, but it was much more regularly in 2012 where I started documenting them, and I have not stopped. So that's been 13 years. I've been writing down my dreams. Yes, plumbers are very necessary. You have no idea. So Tiger Lily says plumbers are very necessary. Yes, you'd be surprised how much they've helped the world. And when you look into it, they've helped the world a lot more than they give credit for. All right. Any more questions? Let's see here. Ryan, can you get Ryan Trombley on your show to tell his Dogman hyena type sighting? I will definitely try. Yeah, I can reach out to Ryan. We'll see where that goes. I can definitely try to reach out to him. And yeah, so if you have any questions, please put them in all caps. Is there a paranormal topic that you refuse to cover? So I wouldn't say paranormal, but the one thing I don't like getting into is when people have drug experiences and then they have sightings of beings and other things. I think those are too, I don't want to say risque, but it's kind of like, well, are you really having that experience, or are you just having a hallucination from the drug? And of course, I just talked about ayahuasca earlier and about having this, but it's not like that's my main focus. Like if you I use that to accentuate another story, but that's one thing I don't like getting into is when people talk about they've used certain psychedelics, and then they have these experiences. Not really. I don't really do that on my show. So I would say that is. Now, what did your parents, siblings think of you, of what you do, your abilities, and how do you deal with the naysayers that mock your beliefs? Okay, so what did my parents do and stuff? It kind of runs in my family. Okay, my sister used to call herself the Queen of Lights. She became so scared of it that she actually turned it off. Now, we lived in this one house where there is a lot of events happening. Like, people had things happening all the time. My dad has had dreams as well. He dreams of like what child, like if you're going to have a child, he knows what it's going to be. He told me that there was like great grandma, like his great grandma was a healer, an animal healer as well. So this is something that has been running in our family for quite some time. We've had a lot of experiences, my mom has had a lot of experiences. Her side of the family has had experiences. I believe it was her grandma saw the Virgin Mary as well. So there has been a lot of experiences within my family. Oh, speaking of which, and one that I'm going to go into is that I believe it's like her great uncle. His name is Pietra de Rutter. He is famous for a miracle being happened in the Lourdes. So it's called the Lourdes. Don't quote me on it. So let me just see here. Pietra de Rutter, Lourdes miracle. Yeah, so Peter de Rutter, his recovery from a broken leg is one of the most famous recognized Lourdes miracles. And so de Rutter is my mother's maiden last name. And this was an uncle, great uncles. And so his leg had been broken, like severely broken for 8 years. It wasn't like there was doctors' proofs talking about this, that like he had doctor's notes on this. And so he did this pilgrimage. He went to the Lourdes, which is like a Virgin Mary kind of thing. And he was instantly healed. And they ended up, like when he died, they ended up actually like casting his legs in bronze, and they're on display at this church, which is crazy. Yeah. All right. So here we go. Rye, is it true that your wallet is woven out of No one's supposed to know that. That was a secret. How did you figure that one out? So, is my wallet woven out of chupacabra leather? It might be. It might not be. I can neither confirm or deny that. So, yeah, that's that was a good one. I like that. I think that's a great way to end that. So, yeah, so my family seemed to have a lot of and I'll go into Peter de Rutter's miracle maybe on another live. I'll prepare it, or another show. I'll do a preparation of that and go into details about that. But he's one of the miracles of the Lourdes miracles. Yeah, so it's July 2nd, 1822. He was born in July 2nd, 1822, and he lived into 1898. In many French books, Pierre de Rutter, in English, Peter de Rutter, his recovery from broken leg is one of the most famous recognized Lourdes miracles. A bronze cast of his bones is exhibited in the Lourdes Medical Bureau. Okay, so not in the church, I thought. Although it's not supposed to have occurred in Lourdes itself, but in a sanctuary of Our Lady of Lourdes at Oustaker near Ghent, Belgium. So that's a teaser for that one. I think that's an interesting one. Oh, geez, it looks like I missed a bunch of. I'm way behind in my messages here. Do you have a favorite movie, book based on the paranormal? I think BJ Lapierre was talking about The Others. I thought for the paranormal, that one was really fascinating, where they were the ones that were actually dead. It was Nicole Kidman, and they were the ones that were actually dead. So that would be my favorite paranormal type of movie. I'm not into horror movies, but that one is really interesting. Now, if we're talking supernatural or science fiction, like really mind-bending, Dark City. I highly recommend Dark City. I think it has more truth to it than anything else. My dad had a dream of the RFK shooting in 63. Ooh, that's interesting. All right, let's see if there's any more. I'm scrolling down. It's late. Yeah, this is a late show. This is 3 hours and 15 minutes. I had a dream recently about RFK and not RFK, JFK and and Martin Luther King. And if you guys have one quick second, because I see that who had just posted that about, I think it was Carol, had posted about a JFK precog dream. So I had one recently. And what I do is with my dreams is I actually message myself my dreams. I write them down and I send them to my WhatsApp. And so I have access to them. Excuse me. So then I can eventually put them into my documents. Okay. No. And I hate sitting here and not having something ready. So if I don't find this, then transport. If I don't find this quickly, then I'll just skip it for now. Okay. So I arrived. Okay, this is the dream was February 1st, 2025. I arrived. So I knew I'd traveled in time, and I wasn't completely certain the time, but I thought it was the assassination of MLK, so Martin Luther King. I knew that the assassination had already happened of whomever had been killed, but I was there to prevent a secondary issue and document the assassins. I could see down a road, and one of them took off running, and everyone assumed it was just one, but I knew that there were more at this time, at least two more. I saw one standing at the top of a building that bordered the street, and the other assassin ran down. I could see that he held a black sniper rifle with a large black scope. I pulled out my cell phone, which I had with me, and took pictures of him so I could document that there was more than one shooter. Then I took action to prevent the secondary issue. The secondary issue was supposed to be a mass shooting in a church cafeteria area. It was a large area with numerous tables that the people could come to eat, and the church provided this area. I was very emotional as I told everyone that they had to evacuate, as one of the assassins, or multiple of them, would be coming here shortly to kill a lot of the people. I knew this was going to happen because I had the information from the present time. I felt extremely emotionally attached to these people, and I had to get them out. They did start to leave, but some didn't. I talked with one individual, and I told him that I knew this was going to happen, and he asked me how. I explained to him that I traveled from the future from 2024. I said 2024, but realized that I had made a mistake in it because it's 2025. But I thought he wouldn't even care if I had messed that up and giving him the wrong year. So I said I had traveled from 2024 to 1963 to prevent this from happening. And in my mind, it was Martin Luther King. And so please forgive me. I'm not from the US. I'm from Canada. So I didn't know the dates of assassinations. But 1963 is JFK. So I had traveled back and there was multiple shooters at the JFK assassination, and there was supposed to be a secondary shooting as well. So I supposedly had stopped that in my dream. Now, let's see. We got a couple more questions here before. Yes, I know William Dafoe via YouTube will not cover much of the Popowa cryptid. Is it possibly considered? I don't know that one. Will not cover much on the Pobobabwa cryptid. Is it it's possibly considered a demon? Okay. That's something. Again, send me an email about that because I want to look into that. Talisman by Stephen King, Peter Straub needs to be made into a movie. All right. And let's see. Anything else? Do you think you will have a Facebook fan page in the future? It's funny you said that, Mouse, because one of my favorite podcasts, one of my favorite shows that I kind of was an inspiration to me was The Confessionals by Tony Merkel. And there is a Tony Merkel fan page. And I was thinking to myself, would I ever have a fan page? Would there someone ever make a fan page for Codega's Codex of Curiosities? I don't know. Who knows? You know, I don't want my ego's not to get involved in any of this. So I think that we'll just leave that. If it happens, it happens. I think that's great. But if it doesn't, it doesn't. Would you cover Nuestra Senora de la Santa Muerte, Our Lady of Holy Death? Or is that... No, that's something I would do. And I'm going to have I'm having a Mexican lady on. She's kind of I don't want to say a bruja, kind of. but she'll be coming on. Maybe we'll go into that. So that is a great post. So that's something I think I will ask her. She has her own show, and we'll definitely be shouting that out as well. So that will be, I haven't done that interview yet. That interview is probably next month sometime. All right, everyone. I think we're getting close to an end. And if you enjoyed the show tonight, please share it with your friends. And this is something I ask, like this for you costs you nothing. It just share the show with your friends and family, people who will enjoy the show. Maybe they'll find something interesting, or maybe you know someone who has a interesting story or interesting tale that they, get them to contact me, get them to reach out to me. I reach out to everyone. I try to stay in contact with absolutely everyone because it's very difficult at times, because I have a lot of things going on. I'm still working a full-time job. I'd love for this to be my full-time job. And for that to happen, I need your guys' help to share the show. And like I said, if you enjoyed it, if you like the merch, check out my store, Codega's Codex of Curiosities. It's always in the links. I always put that there. That's a great way to support the show, and you get something out of it as well. You get a cool hat, cool shirts, and every one of the shirts, even if they don't advertise Codega's Codex of Curiosities, it's in every single shirt. You got to find it. So if you order one, make sure you look. Tyler bought one as well. Shout out to Tyler for that. And shout out to all my my mods, my new mods, everybody that's out there. So I don't miss everyone. I want to make sure I get everyone here. So definitely shout out to Mouse. You've been through it from the beginning. So thank you so much. Tyler as well. BJ Lapierre, newer mod, Bryce and Eric. Thank you so much. And I believe that's it. You guys really, really help. And to you, shout out to all my listeners and viewers. This is what makes the show as well. I do the show, but it's great to have that audience, to have that feedback, to hear from you guys. And make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe, hit the bell, support the show any way you want. So again, guys, keep your curiosity. Oh, Brad said he came. Oh, yes. I'm missing it. I'm missing things. So it's telling you that I'm just not into it. I am into it, but it's late. I need to go to bed soon. So with that, everyone, keep your curiosity wandering, keep the light lit, and always find your way home.
Beneath the stars where shadows grow, the Nephilim's echoes whisper low. Bigfoot roams through the forest deep, and Dogman prowls where the brave won't sleep. Across lost history we wonder why, seeking the truth that time tried to hide. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit, through the darkness don't ever quit. In the Codex, the mysteries come, and always find your way back home. UFOs streak through the velvet skies, aliens watch with unblinking eyes. The paranormal hums where silence breaks, in the void of secrets a lantern wakes. Through hidden realms and stories untold, the Codex flame is a light to hold. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit, through the darkness don't ever quit. In the Codex, the mysteries come, and always find your way back home. UFOs streak through the velvet skies, aliens watch with unblinking eyes. The paranormal hums where silence breaks, in the void of secrets a lantern wakes. Through hidden realms and stories untold, the Codex flame is a light to hold. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit, through the darkness don't ever quit. In the Codex, the mysteries come and always find your way back home. Legends rise from the Earth's deep core, a lost legacy we can't ignore. With every step, the veil grows thin, revealing worlds where the strange begins. Keeping curiosities wandering and the light lit, through the darkness don't ever quit. In the Codex, the mysteries come and always find your way back home.